that headline for our new Prime Minister, heading off 15 days into the job. A job he's wanted, as you were saying to me, since the age of 20. He gets the job and he's off on holiday.
Yeah, and it's not like there's much to do, is there, really? But as always, this show is about you, so please do get in touch. gbnews.com/your say, talking about everything, including, obviously, the ongoing situation with that early release scheme. We've got some great interviews coming up for you, so you don't want to miss them. Asking what it means for you and your community. And to be honest with you, none of the answers are good. gbnews.com/your say is the way to get in touch. All of that coming up after your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good afternoon. The top stories: people jailed for rape, serious child sex offences and grooming will be excluded from the upcoming early release scheme the government's announced. It comes after Prime Minister Andy Burnham responded to backlash to the plan initiated by the Starmer administration with the goal of easing prison overcrowding. Mr Burnham has also delayed the start of the scheme from September to October and said he wanted to go even further, but it was not possible without the prison system collapsing, putting the public at much greater risk, he said. The policy has been controversial since the outset, but returned to prominence earlier this month when it emerged a policeman's killers may be among those eligible for early release. PC Andrew Harper was killed in 2019 while responding to a quad bike theft in Berkshire. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says the Labour government has been too slow to act.
Labour have been too slow to do this. Andy Burnham has been too slow. I put an amendment down on legislation to stop the release of rapists and paedophiles. Labour MPs voted against it. They're only doing this now because of the pressure which I and others, Conservatives and others, have been putting on them, and we will continue to do so. We do not want to see the early release of killers. I'm glad that the government wants to stop the release of rapists, but they need to get on with it, not just talk about it.
The Justice Secretary Alex Norris says he understands the disappointment felt by many, but says it's the best the government can do at this time.
Without these changes, we run out of prison places in October or November of this year. Now, me as a new Justice Secretary, Andy Burnham as a new Prime Minister, have heard the concerns about some of the people possibly involved in this. So we paused it and we've looked again. We have been able to, as you said, remove rapists, to remove child sex abusers from scope of that release from prison. However, you know, we would like to have gone further, but we can't. This is as far as we can go and still have prison places. And I know that's very disappointing and upsetting to victims and their families, but it's the best we could manage at this time.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called for emergency talks amid growing tensions between EU member states after almost 70,000 Moroccans poured into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta last week. Today, EU interior ministers will have emergency talks by video conference to discuss the issue. The scenes in Ceuta have strained relations among some of the EU's 27 member states. In a letter to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, von der Leyen praised his swift handling of the crisis. Meanwhile, pressure is building upon Andy Burnham to come up with a solution to the illegal migrant crisis in Britain, with over 2,000 arrivals since the beginning of his premiership. Well, that comes as a major sea rescue has taken place in the English Channel this morning after a so-called mega dinghy sank, tipping almost 160 illegal migrants into the sea. Multiple British and French rescue vessels were called to the scene around 8 a.m. after the engine on the giant dinghies reported to have caught fire. A total of 157 migrants ended up in the water and were pulled to safety by the arriving rescue ships. Medics from Boulogne-sur-Mer were helicoptered aboard rescue boats to treat the injured as they were landed aboard. Multiple migrants suffered the effects of hypothermia, but at this stage there are no reports of any serious injuries. President Trump exclusively told GB News he hopes to have a great relationship with Prime Minister Andy Burnham, but says he must get control of energy and immigration.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you.
In other news, NHS staff are facing a growing wave of racist abuse from patients, according to a new report. Patients have reportedly refused to be treated by a number of healthcare workers, stating their race was the reason why. The Society of Radiographers says the incidents have risen noticeably over the past 18 months and is calling on the NHS to formally record and monitor racist abuse. And detectives investigating the fatal stabbing of a 21-year-old student in a North London park have offered a £20,000 reward for information on the whereabouts of a man they urgently wish to trace. The Metropolitan Police have also appealed directly to 22-year-old suspect Jordan Asije, urging him to do the right thing and hand himself in. The force released a picture of Mr Asije this morning, adding he's known to spend time in North London. Finbar Sullivan, a filmmaking student, was stabbed to death during a fight in Primrose Hill in the early evening on Tuesday the 7th of April. Police said another man in his 20s also suffered injuries which were not life-threatening or life-changing. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Here's a look at the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Pound will buy you $1.34 and 1.17 euros. The price of gold, £3,013 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 10,893 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. It's good afternoon, Britain, with you at 12:10. Now, the Prime Minister is under pressure after it emerged that two men convicted over the killing of PC Andrew Harper could still be released early, with other offenders also potentially returning to the streets sooner. What could the scheme mean for your community, though?
Well, we're now joined in the studio by GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, I mean, look, we know there's a crisis in terms of prison overcrowding, but sending so many people, repeat offenders, back out into the communities, that's going to have a very, very significant knock-on effect.
It certainly will, and this is clearly a compromise that Andy Burnham is very, very uncomfortable in making. Just a few weeks ago, he said he was going to look again at the early release scheme, and at that time, he implied that he was going to scale it right back. He has scaled it back. It now doesn't include rapists and the most serious child sex offenders. What counts as a serious child sex offence and what isn't? I think that's a point that needs clarifying very quickly indeed. But those who've been convicted of manslaughter, burglary, etc., are still going to be released early. Domestic violence as well. Obviously, that puts fear into the hearts of all of their victims and also into the wider communities. To put some numbers on it, about 5,000 people were going to be released in September. That date has now been pushed back to October in order to give the probation services more time to plan. I'm sure there will be relief in the probation services over that, because part of the problem when this early release scheme came into effect in September 2024 is that the probation services weren't given enough time to plan, and there were some offenders who re-offended within days and were simply sent back to prison. So the date's been changed, and now 1,000 of those 5,000 won't be released early. I say won't be released early. Of course, the vast majority of prisoners do get released after 2/3 of their prison sentence anyway. This was only the early release scheme brings it to half their sentences. Now, public outrage at the moment is centred on the killers of PC Andrew Harper, two of the three killers, who will now be released early. His widow, Lizzie Harper, is up in arms about it, unsurprisingly, but there are so many more cases like this. The rationale behind it is that there are about 89,500 prison places available. 86,000 of those are currently filled, and the Ministry of Defence is suggesting that by October or November of this year, we could be at full capacity, which obviously raises the question of how are we going to increase that capacity. Part of that issue is with the Conservatives. Between 2010 and 2024, only about 500 net prison places were added. New prisons were open, but older ones closed down. The Labour Party has promised a much faster prison building programme. Let's see if that actually happens.
And meanwhile, as we know, Andy Burnham has gone on holiday. I mean, there was a big workload, Liv. I mean, we are combining the two stories, I know, but there's a huge workload to be getting on. He's wanted this job since he was a young man. to go on holiday 2 weeks with this literally occupying the front pages of the newspapers?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is probably his biggest challenge so far. He's only been in the post for a couple of weeks, and already he's having to make this very, very difficult decision to not curtail this early release programme. He's got other huge issues coming down the line. The defence budget obviously has a £4.9 billion black hole in it, which he has to fill by the autumn. He also has a very difficult decision to make about jury trials. David Lammy, when he was Justice Secretary, said he was going to scale jury trials right back. Andy Burnham has intimated that he wouldn't like to do that. But again, it's going to be a really, really tricky question of capacity in the courts, of money, etc., etc. I mean, I would feel a bit cheeky if I asked for a holiday 2 weeks into a new job, but perhaps he's thinking this is his only opportunity to get away for quite a few months, years perhaps to come.
Well, indeed. Olivia Thanau, thank you so much. That's Olivia Utney there for you. I do find it absolutely frightening that while people, victims of domestic violence, are getting these letters dropping on their doormat saying, oh, the person that abused you is going to be out of prison in a few weeks' time. Hope you're OK with that. Here's a help number if you need it. And it's like, I mean, I couldn't go on holiday and leave those people facing that. I really couldn't.
The thing is, it's going to get worse because the projections in terms of the number of offenders in the prison system is only going in one direction at the moment. It's continuing to go up. So 5,000 at the moment, OK, it's been reduced by 1,000. It's going to continue. They're going to have more of these releases unless they can bring this building programme on stream much, much quicker.
Yeah, well, they're doing very well with building all the houses they promised, aren't they? Oh, no, they're not, are they? OK, let's talk to former police officer and counter-terrorism specialist Paul Birch now. Paul, obviously it's the headline cases that are making the news on this case. I mean, you know, Lizzie Harper has given, you know, incredibly emotional interviews about what it means to her and her family. But this is affecting all of us. This is affecting all our communities. I mean, it's not just the high-profile cases. It is going to be the burglars, the phone thieves, the people that make our everyday lives unbearable. What do you make of where we are with this?
Well, we are in a sorry situation, and much as I think the current government blame the previous administration for all of its own woes, I think they've got a case in this instance. This has been building since at least 2010, with 500 prison places built in about 14, 15 years. Yes, we are in a bit of a mess here, and I totally understand, and I totally agree that it's the antisocial behaviour, what they ridiculously call low-level crime that blights people's lives more than murderers and terrorists. The situation, you know, they talk about the fact you can't build Nightingale prisons like you can build Nightingale hospitals. Well, you can build centres very, very quickly, and as previous guests have said, put the low-level offenders in those rather than release them into the community. I mean, you're showing footage here. I mean, perception is everything. A load of gang members turning up outside prison and breaking open the champagne. What sort of message does that send to ordinary people?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Paul. And the other issue about this, of course, is even those they release into society, we're told that don't worry, there will be robust measures in place to ensure that they are properly monitored. We know that's not true. We've got 9,000 people that are supposed to be monitored on these ankle tags that never are.
Yeah, I mean, there's a crisis in the probation service as well. Are they going to suddenly magic up a load of new probation officers? And even if they did manage to recruit a whole load before September or October, when these releases are now going to happen, they'll be inexperienced. They'll be absolutely taken advantage of by hardened career criminals who know exactly how to play the system. Surely there are other things we can do. Yeah, foreign prisoners. There are 12, 14,000 prisoners in the estate who are foreign nationals. I'm sure we can get rid of some of them in the next few months. Yes, it would mean British prisoners coming back into the prison estate, but I'm sure the numbers don't match. I'm sure there are fewer British prisoners around the world than there are foreign prisoners in British prisons.
Far fewer.
Yes, exactly. So that's got to be a good few thousand. It may even eliminate the problem completely until, of course, they build the prisons, the 14,000 prison places they plan on building. And yes, they have been left with an absolute mess to clear up. It isn't entirely of their own making. I'll give them that. But there are other things that you can do. Just releasing, I mean, I heard the Justice Secretary earlier say that you couldn't, this is based on offence type. It's not based on individual cases. But manslaughter, if you have someone who hits someone in a fight in a pub, who then falls over and hits their head, that's not the same as somebody dragging a police officer a mile down a country lane to his death, and being in that car doing that. So surely they can make cases on, case-by-case basis, rather than just saying, no, everyone convicted of manslaughter is now eligible for early release. Because there are degrees of manslaughter. There are degrees of every offence. Like you were saying earlier, Dawn, I think, what constitutes a non-serious child sexual offence?
Wow.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that's worrying.
So, yeah, no, exactly. So I think there are things they could do rather than take what is. I mean, in terms of numbers, this is the easy decision. But in terms of perception, in terms of public perception of politicians, this is probably the worst decision they can make.
Paul, we'll leave it on that depressing note. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's
Thank you very much.
Former police officer and counter-terrorism specialist Paul Birch there for you.
The other thing worth mentioning here is the last time we had the early release scheme, we had an absolute deluge of prisoners who were mistakenly released, because what doesn't get spoken about here is the fact that it's the prison authorities, the governors and their management team, that have to try, as a matter of urgency, to work out how long a prisoner has left in their sentence and when they should be released. So as a consequence, they were shoving out lots of different people back into society mistakenly, that they then had to try and find and recall back to prison.
It's frightening. And how much is all that costing as well, when we should be investing in building those prisons? In any case, we have a statement from the Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, who gave us this statement. The Prime Minister and I have reviewed these reforms, listened to the concerns and gone further to protect victims. Victims will also have access to better support and reassurance that offenders leaving prison face tougher supervision and punishment. OK, well, the Conservative Party are drafting a plan that would allow police forces across England and Wales to carry out basic investigative work this week.
Well, joining us now is GB News national reporter Will Godley, who has been out and about with the Conservative Party leader today. Will, what are they saying about this crisis? Because, of course, under the Conservative watch, there wasn't a fast enough prison building programme to help deal with the expansion of the prison population.
No, absolutely not. That's something Kemi Badenoch would say was something they got wrong. But speaking this morning, Kemi Badenoch said the government should look at other solutions as opposed to just this early release scheme. One thing that she spoke about was renting prison places from other countries, something she didn't say she knew how much would cost, but something Sweden's doing, and perhaps that's something that we should be doing as well. But the Conservatives this week launching their new policing plan, they perhaps hope to see more people in prison. So this all, of course, ties together. This morning it's a very early start for Kemi Badenoch and Chris Philp out on this early morning raid with police officers from Surrey Police behind me. They were acting on intelligence from neighbours which suggested that a man in the area was suspected of dealing drugs, and when we got to the property earlier on this morning, police officers searched the property and the car, and they found a number of quantities of different drugs, including a big quantity of cocaine and a Sainsbury's bag full of cannabis, as well as prohibited weapons as well. Well, one man was arrested on suspicion of possession with intent to supply. All of that as Kemi Badenoch watched on, and earlier she said why she wanted to be there today.
It's very, very important that we see people suffer the consequences for committing crimes. So I was out with the police this morning on a dawn raid where a suspected Class A drug supplier was arrested, and it just highlights the need for the policy which Conservatives are pushing, which is that we do need more police officers. We want to see 10,000 more police officers across the country. We want live facial recognition so we can catch suspects faster. They are making so many people's lives a misery across communities all over our country, and it's not just households, it's businesses as well. The Conservatives have a plan to get policing working better than ever before, and one of the things I wanted to do today was actually be with the police and see how they go about doing their job, because you need to understand what they do so that you can help them as much as possible.
Well, Kemi Badenoch there outlining what the Conservatives would do to tackle policing in the UK. They've called it their Take Back Our Streets plan. They want 10,000 extra police officers, and also for police officers to put every suspect through facial recognition software, and for police officers to follow up signals from stolen goods. They say if police forces across the country did all of that, it would solve an extra 36,800 crimes a year, because that really is the point of their plan, solving more crimes. They are pointing to statistics that only 92% of reported crimes, of reported crimes go unsolved. Only 8% are solved. So that's something they really want to tackle. They say it's fully funded through £800 million. The government, though, are saying that they are turning the tide on crime. They're investing heavily on facial recognition software and have pledged to introduce an extra 13,000 police officers before the end of this parliamentary session.
So much. That's GB News national reporter Will Godley. There's so much you can say to that. I mean, the Conservatives oversaw police officers losing their jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. But listen, we are where we are. I do think that, rather than releasing many thousands of people back into communities who will, undoubtedly reoffend, the recidivism rate for those being released back into custody is very, very high. Most go on to reoffend after a year or two, many much sooner than that. So I do think they could easily, introduce these pop-up prisons, put the lower offending prisoners in there and keep the more serious offenders in jail. They shouldn't be allowed back in the streets again.
I mean, a lot of you are getting in touch as well. Jackie said put 3 in a cell and let them take in turns to use the bed. Why are we tiptoeing about what is good for them when we should be talking about the victims? Anyway,
absolutely agree.
This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show, isn't there, Mark?
Yeah, the man accused of murdering a British charity volunteer and dumping her body in a suitcase has been unmasked as an Afghan small boat migrant.
But after the break, more than 160 migrants have been rescued after their boat caught fire whilst crossing the channel. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very, very tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 29 minutes past 12.
Yes, OK. And a mega dinghy believed to be carrying 162 illegal migrants has caught fire during an attempt to cross the Channel. Search and rescue services were launched at around 6 a.m. on Tuesday after the vessel's engine went up in flames in French waters.
Well, joining us now is a former Royal Navy officer, William Montgomery. William, thanks again for speaking to us on GB News. Listen, this was a major operation involving British assets, French assets. Luckily, they got all 157 at the time that were plunged into the water by this, but it really feels like it's only a matter of time before we see a very significant loss of life in the Channel.
Yes, exactly. And one of the perhaps good things that's come out from this, it's highlighted the real risks of those dinghies crossing the Channel. They need to be stopped at source. Fortunately for the people on board, nobody was seriously injured. And of course, it happened in French waters, so therefore it becomes the French responsibility. Had it have happened in UK waters, then obviously we would have had to bring them to the United Kingdom. But it does highlight this very real challenge that we have about how we can stop this at source. See, the French are not legally obligated to stop the boats leaving in the first place. That's part of the ECHR, which they're signatories to. They should only stop that boat if they knowingly knew it was unsafe for sea. And this is part of the problem that Nigel Farage has highlighted with his new policy. Whilst it's a good idea in principle, it just does not work. The Royal Navy can control the sea quite effectively, but it cannot control the beginning and end point of that process. The Royal Navy is not allowed under any circumstances to enter French waters unless the French invite us to do so. So the reform plan is a good idea, but it's completely unworkable.
William, Reform did say that if it's sold, if that's the correct phrase, as a humanitarian act, the fact that the Navy and the Royal Marines are dropping migrants back onto the French shore, then that makes it OK. Would you agree with that?
Not at all, because we can't do that. The Royal Navy can control the sea, but it cannot control the French coastline. And the French have already said repeatedly that they don't want these migrants back. So you can imagine the scenario if we went into French waters, what are the French going to do? Now, theoretically, they could open fire on us. And that might be, to a lot of your viewers, unthinkable. But actual fact, it could happen. And can you imagine the scenario that the Royal Marines land these migrants on French beaches? There's a confrontation then potentially between the Royal Marines and the French Armed Forces. And the other thing about this is that currently these migrants are largely compliant because they're getting into UK waters, they're getting onto border force boats willingly because they want to do that. As soon as we stop them doing that, they then become more objective to this, and that it creates a problem of its own making. I mean, what happens when these people don't want to board a Royal Marine or a Royal Navy vessel because they know they're going to be taken back to French waters? The whole thing is just unworkable on every level.
Well, I think you raise an interesting point about, how compliant the migrants would be, and reforms say that in those circumstances it would be down to the expertise of the Royal Marines, who really are expert when it comes to these at-sea interdictions, to be able to respond and to effectively pluck these migrants one by one off the small boats. But I think they would point to this morning's incident as an example of how this could work under international maritime law. This happened in French waters. British assets just responded into French waters to save lives at sea. And I think what Reform are arguing is that if you have a very unsafe dinghy at sea, which these dinghies absolutely are, filled to the gunwale with people on flimsy boats in often difficult seagoing conditions, regardless of what the French decide to do or not to do to intervene, that Reform argue that it would be legitimate for them to intervene in French waters to go after those individuals and then to take them to safety.
Potentially, but the problem there lies in the fact that today's example was relatively straightforward. The engine was on fire. Most of these boats crossed the channel perfectly safely. So what do we do in that scenario? We enter French waters to interject with these ribs. The French don't want us to do that, and the French then are potentially chasing British assets out of their own waters. And meanwhile, these dinghies are running circles around both forces. Unless you've got a particular problem with the dinghy like we had today, that doesn't work either. I can really see a potential problem with a NATO ally here. Without the French cooperation, 100%, this just does not work. The French want...
OK, William, we'll run out of time, but thank you very much for your input. It's always appreciated.
Thank you. That's quite astonishing, the fact that William was saying there that literally he could see a time when the French could open fire.
No,
I mean...
No, I don't see that at all. Well, and listen, I think as well, he said it's straightforward when a vessel is on fire. But I think what Reform would argue, and they do have a point, is that just this vessel in the water is so unsafe that that constitutes a vessel in difficulties and distress, and would then mean that, there is a legal cover to go after that vessel and to take the people to safety.
OK, well, we have a right reply for you. UK government spokesperson has said British vessels have supported a French search and rescue operation. This is a live rescue operation, but at this stage there have been no fatalities reported. Those on board will be returned safely to France. This incident underlines the terrible dangers of small boat crossing. We continue to work relentlessly with the French and our partners overseas to prevent these perilous journeys.
OK, time now to get your latest news headlines. Here's Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories this hour. People jailed for rape, serious child sex offences and grooming will be excluded from the upcoming early prisoner release scheme the government's announced. It comes after Prime Minister Andy Burnham responded to backlash to the plan initiated by the Starmer administration with the goal of easing prison overcrowding by putting it on pause and launching an urgent review. A major air and sea rescue has taken place in the English Channel this morning after a so-called mega dinghy sank, tipping almost 160 illegal migrants into the sea. Multiple British and French rescue vessels were called to the scene around 8 a.m. after the engine on the giant dinghies reported to have caught fire. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called for emergency talks amid growing tensions between EU member states after almost 70,000 Moroccans poured into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta last week. Today, EU interior ministers will meet via video conference to discuss. Those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst in parts of the southeast it's still hot and humid today, further north the bigger talking point is the showery rain, which is going to be quite heavy, quite thundery at times as well. There's an area of low pressure which is moving northeastwards across northern parts at the moment, and it's the frontal structure associated with this which has already brought a fair amount of rain to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we'll continue to see some hefty bursts of thundery rain through the afternoon in these places as well. Could see some relatively high rainfall totals, blustery winds, large hail as well, something to watch out for. Further south across England and Wales, a few showers in the west, staying dry in the east, and it's here where we'll have the highest temperatures, 31, 32 Celsius, feeling hot and humid. More hefty rain to come through the end of the day across northern parts of Scotland in particular. This is where the rain's going to be most persistent. Further south across parts of Northern Ireland, central eastern parts of Scotland, this is where the showers have the greatest chance of turning thundery. Some intense downpours, hail like I mentioned, and gusty winds. A few showers for parts of England and Wales, always more likely across central and western parts, though some eastern areas towards Lincolnshire, Yorkshire should see some showers in the southeast staying dry, and here it should stay dry overnight with a fair amount of clear skies. Elsewhere, bursts of showery rain here and there. The more persistent rain across parts of northern Scotland will edge a little bit further northwards, really just affecting Orkney and Shetland. It is going to be a warm night, especially in the southeast. Temperatures holding up in the high teens. Elsewhere, many places holding up in the mid-teens for most. Then into tomorrow, a bit of showery rain here and there to start, but actually as we go through the day, heavier rain pushing across parts of Northern Ireland and more intense thundery downpours developing across central and eastern parts of Scotland. Further south and especially towards the southeast, whilst it won't be anywhere near as hot as today, it's still going to be largely sunny. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound between junctions 7 and 5 near Southampton Airport has a lane closure. The M23 southbound between junctions 8 and 9 in Reigate also has a lane closure. The M3 westbound between junctions 2 and 3 near Thorpe has an obstruction. The A1 between junctions 3 and 4 is closed. The M11 southbound at junction 14 in Girton is affected by an incident. Across Wales, the A5 at Menai Bridge is closed. And on the trains, Cross Country and Great Western Railway services have reduced service between Newport and Cardiff Central, with disruption between Oxford and Didcot Parkway and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 1. Now, a 26-year-old Afghan migrant has been arrested after the body of a Scottish woman was found inside a suitcase in Athens.
Well, police believe 38-year-old Elizabeth Jane Ross died up to a week before she was discovered.
Yeah, it's horrible, this story. It's understood the suspect used her phone and accessed her bank account in the days that followed. Let's talk to now research fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, Emma Schubert. Emma, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Emma, I feel like I'm reading some kind of thriller novel with this, but this is real life. This is the most horrific story. The front page of the Daily Mail today just says everything you need to know. Afghan small boat migrant who wed US woman after arriving in Greece is held over killing of UK missionary. I mean, you really couldn't make it up. It's horrific. What's the latest on this story?
Well, I think this story, as gory as it is, adds a bit of an emotional angle to data that we've already known about for quite some time across the West, really. So we do know that Afghan nationals are overrepresented in violent and sexual offense statistics. This is well documented in the UK, in Germany, in some Nordic countries that have good data on this. So what this means then is not that all Afghans are inherently violent. Absolutely not. It means that there's evidence that the current screening processes and selection processes that are in place for arrivals specifically from places like Afghanistan have not adequately filtered for high-risk individuals. I think, especially when we're talking about refugees and asylum seekers, that's a huge hole that is not being addressed properly.
Yeah, I think you raise a very pertinent point there, Emma. Obviously, separate from this specific case, there is an issue, and it's not just with those coming on small boats or the back of lorries from Afghanistan. There are so many countries in the world at the moment that are dysfunctional, that have poor record-keeping systems.
Yeah, it's true. And Afghanistan actually is a particularly interesting example of poor record-keeping systems. Remember, anyone who comes from Afghanistan with the Afghan passport has been given that passport by the Taliban, because the Taliban is the government of Afghanistan, and the entity that controls the Ministry of the Interior in Afghanistan is the Haqqani Network. The Haqqani Network is a jihadist group that a lot of British citizens died fighting against for many, many years. But now they're in charge of handing out passports. So if anyone shows up with a passport that has an Afghanistan stamp on it, we need to be very, very, very cautious about that kind of thing.
I mean, Emma, the chap in this particular case, the alleged killer, says that he had to flee Afghanistan because his family were killed by the Taliban. But you're saying maybe, as you say, he had a passport, he was allowed to travel. Maybe we should maybe consider what's actually going on here a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a massive mistake across the West, and now all of a sudden assuming that the Taliban is going to stop exporting terror to the West. By the way, they haven't. They're still doing it. Now, I'm not suggesting that this individual is in any way connected to the Taliban at all. But again, I think individuals coming from Afghanistan in particular, I mean, this is something we should be very, very cautious about, regardless of the story that we're told about why they arrived or why they didn't. I think this is something that just deserves very, very high levels of scrutiny from the government.
And just quickly and finally, Emma, obviously people coming from Afghanistan, whether they are coming over in the small boats illegally without a passport or have destroyed their passport, or whether they have a passport, the situation in Afghanistan, the horrors that people in Afghanistan, especially the women and girls who we don't see leaving the country that often, it has to be said, have been through, it is going to make them behave in a way that most of us will find absolutely terrifying.
In terms of the men that are coming over, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, the psychological damage, effectively, to individuals like that.
Ah, I see. Yeah, well, I mean, I think the UK is certainly not equipped with the psychological resources necessary to take in mass numbers of deeply traumatized and disturbed individuals from Afghanistan. So I think that's a huge concern as well.
Okay. Emma Schubert, thank you very much indeed. Great to speak to you.
Yeah, OK. Now, we have some breaking news to bring you in the past few minutes. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has just posted on X in relation to the early release prison scheme. In the post, he said, the system is now dangerously close to capacity and we are running the risk of new offenders not being incarcerated in a timely manner. The Prime Minister also announced that the government would convert some women's prisons to men's, faster deportations for foreign national criminals and review of indefinite sentences.
That message from our Prime Minister with his bucket and spade and his feet in the sand.
Indeed. But, I mean, it's suggestions that many of us have been talking about women's prisons and deporting foreign prisoners, of which there are about 10,000 in our prisons at the moment. OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show.
Well, Andy Burnham, as I just alluded to there, has headed off on holiday just 15 days after taking charge in Downing Street.
But if you are in search of going on holiday as well, some holiday sun maybe, join the Prime Minister. We don't know where he is, by the way. Here's a forecast for those top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat is building and intensifying across central and eastern parts of Europe through the next few days. Fine for many parts of Europe, but the risk of thunderstorms for the Alps and a few scattered elsewhere in many parts. I think for the Canary Islands, mostly dry with sunny spells and feeling hot here. 1 or 2 showers and thunderstorms for northern and eastern parts of Spain, otherwise hot sunshine. But the temperatures across Italy into Croatia, more especially into Hungary and Bulgaria, really quite high for the time of year, up into the high 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Charlie, as most of the viewers know, I would be involved in agriculture. This isn't quite agriculture. It's quite close to it, the cousins of. A lot of things that go on in agriculture are on display here. Thousands of people coming to this site, Ragley Hall, just about 45 minutes out of Birmingham.
We are the modern ruralists, and here today we have the craft yard. We've got 9 different crafts, all demonstrating what they're up to. Here we have the wheelwrights, and they're bonding a wheel here. So this is an ancient craft that's been going for about. Barney Murray's a bit of a legend, quite frankly. He's the national champion, master dry stone waller, comes from North Wales, and he's a bit of a Thor lookalike. So he's quite popular.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, at 16 minutes past 8, the annual bike ride from Yorkshire to London is taking place today, aiming to honour the legacy of the Batley and Spen Labour MP Jo Cox, who was murdered by a far-right terrorist in June of 2016.
Well, the bike ride aims to champion a cause she was passionate about, as this year marks the 10th anniversary of her tragic death.
Kim, if we can just start with you, what is your sister's legacy?
Well, there's so much that we've got to be proud of that's been done in Jo's name. It's just been 10 years since she was murdered, and what has kept us going as a family has been the way that so many amazing people, including people like this amazing man, have done things in Jo's name to show what our country is really about. And you've got all these amazing people today from all different backgrounds, all walks of life, celebrating the things that we have in common, not agreeing on everything.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a difficult question. Honestly, I don't think I would at this rate, because I think the government tracks, when we say we're fighting for Britain, what are we actually fighting for? The concept of Britain, I don't think exists anymore. When I look at Britain, when I go outside, it doesn't seem to be very British. And I think the core demographic of the people who would normally fight, these white working class boys who, you know, have been fighting for Britain, who we expect just to sacrifice their life in a fight, you know, they've been demonised for decades and decades by the government, by our education system, by the media. Economically, they've been disadvantaged. So why would we expect them to risk their lives when we've demonised them for so long and took them for granted for so long? And this concept of Britain fighting for the British government, you know, the British government has betrayed us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. 10 to 1. This is Good Afternoon Britain.
Yeah, not that you need to know the time if you're on holiday, do you? Because you're on holiday. Well, after 15 days as a Prime Minister, that's exactly what Andy Burnham is doing. He's on holiday. Reform's Lee Anderson has called him not a serious leader. Why didn't he just have his holiday beforehand, or maybe send the family away? And, you know, it's not like he hasn't got a fairly big in tray. But the PM says he will remain in direct contact with officials and continue holding meetings during his overseas break.
OK, let's have a chat with the editorial director at Guido Fawkes, the wonderful Adam Cherry. Now, Adam, I know you love to sit on a beach with your knotted hanky and your wee bucket and spade and the like, but come on, this man has coveted this job for decades. Just over 2 weeks in the job and he's off on holiday.
I know, 15 days is pretty extraordinary, isn't it? And we've published on Guido Fawkes a table of all the recent Prime Ministers going back to Blair, although you could actually have gone a little further back as well, just accounting for how many days they took before they decided they needed a break on the beach. And Burnham is comfortably winning that record, at least in modern times. So, as I say, 15 days for him. In second place, you've got Theresa May, who waited about a month before going to the Alps when she became Prime Minister. And then in third place was Gordon Brown, although for those with long memories, they'll know that he actually returned from that holiday 4 hours into it because of the foot and mouth epidemic. So, look, when there's a crisis, a prime minister, you can expect they'll be pulled back from the brink there. But it doesn't look like Burnham has any interest in doing that. I would also just say that if viewers at home, if they get a new job, right? If you start a brand new gig and you're in a very high-flying position, let's say you're the CEO of a new company, do you think your employees would take kindly if you disappeared on holiday to some sunnier clime 2 weeks into the gig? No one in the real world has this privilege. And look, I acknowledge that all of us need a break from time to time, but it goes back to the obvious point, doesn't it? Which is that he's only just started in the job. And if he really wanted to, okay, I understand he'll need some respite at some point. He could do what Boris Johnson did, which was wait until Christmas. Although if he's planning to call an early election, maybe he doesn't want to do that.
Adam, playing devil's advocate here very quickly. I mean, he's been working hard behind the scenes to get this job in the first place. So maybe he does need this break. I mean, we don't want burnt out prime ministers, do we?
He doesn't need the break. Come on, Dawn.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand you've got to make this point, but burnt out prime ministers after 2 weeks, for goodness sake. What kind of man is, well, I was going to say, what kind of man have we elected? We didn't elect him. No one did. But what kind of man is he if he needs to go to wherever? We don't know exactly where in the world he is at the moment, because if he gets pictured, in his short shorts, I'm sure the country wants to see that. So we don't know where he is. But what kind of man needs this 2 weeks into a job? If you, like I said, if you did this in the private sector, you'd be laughed out of the building. You wouldn't be allowed back in after you return with your suntan.
Yeah, I do think you're right. You've got to show intent, that you're there, you want to knuckle down and just get on with what is a very, very difficult job in hand for any Prime Minister at the moment to try and right this country again.
But also bear in mind, in the just want to say, in the opening days,
quickly, we're running out of time, but quickly.
Yeah, in the opening days of his premiership, he said, give me more time to pull this all together, right? So his own spokesman was saying we need some time to bed in, and now he's lying on a sun lounger.
Well, maybe they meant bed in on a sunbed. I don't know. I'm trying to help out here. Adam, thank you so much, as always. That's Guido Fawkes, Adam Cherry there. OK, the Prime Minister's spokesman has said the government continues to operate as normal, with PM remaining in contact with officials, holding meetings and receiving regular updates on government business.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show, so don't go anywhere. But first, let's take a look at the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst in parts of the southeast it's still hot and humid today, further north the bigger talking point is the showery rain, which is going to be quite heavy, quite thundery at times as well. There's an area of low pressure which is moving northeastwards across northern parts at the moment, and it's the frontal structure associated with this which has already brought a fair amount of rain to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we'll continue to see some hefty bursts of thundery rain through the afternoon in these places as well. Could see some relatively high rainfall totals, blustery winds, large hail as well, something to watch out for. Further south across England and Wales, a few showers in the west, staying dry in the east, and it's here where we'll have the highest temperatures, 31, 32 Celsius, feeling hot and humid. More hefty rain to come through the end of the day across northern parts of Scotland in particular. This is where the rain's going to be most persistent. Further south across parts of Northern Ireland, central eastern parts of Scotland, this is where the showers have the greatest chance of turning thundery. Some intense downpours, hail like I mentioned, and gusty winds. A few showers for parts of England and Wales, always more likely across central and western parts, so some eastern areas towards Lincolnshire, Yorkshire should see some showers in the southeast staying dry, and here it should stay dry overnight with a fair amount of clear skies. Elsewhere, bursts of showery rain here and there. The more persistent rain across parts of northern Scotland will edge a little bit further northwards, really just affecting Orkney and Shetland. It is going to be a warm night, especially in the southeast. Temperatures holding up in the high teens. Elsewhere, many places holding up in the mid-teens for most. Then into tomorrow, a bit of showery rain here and there to start. But actually, as we go through the day, heavier rain pushing across parts of Northern Ireland and more intense thundery downpours developing across central and eastern parts of Scotland. Further south and especially towards the southeast, whilst it won't be anywhere near as hot as today, it's still going to be largely sunny. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to Orla Santi by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating with an incredible £60,000 to be won. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 4th of August. I'm Mark White.
And I'm Dawn Neeson. OK, rapist and child sex offenders will now be blocked from Labour's early release scheme after a furious public backlash. But what about the burglars, drug dealers and violent thugs who terrorise our communities? Why should any criminal walk free before serving their sentence?
Yes, Andy Burnham has reached an uncomfortable compromise. Rapists won't be released early, but killers will. Will it be enough to save the ailing prison service? Find out more with me very soon.
Well, 157 migrants have been rescued after their boat caught fire while crossing the Channel. It comes just a day after Andy Burnham promised to be relentless in stopping the boats.
Talking of that there, Andy Burnham, he's headed off on holiday, just 15 days as Prime Minister.
Benefit claimants are being offered discounts on everything from package holidays to sex toys through private disability schemes. Yes, you heard it right.
Not even we could make that up. More than 3,000 children are waiting to be adopted, but there are fewer than half as many approved families available. Why are so many children being left in care when millions of Brits say they would consider adopting?
And is business booming this summer holiday in the contested sunniest place in the UK, the Isle of Wight?
Well, during Cowes Week, around 100,000 people will visit the Isle of Wight. It's a great boost for local businesses, a great boost for the local economy. Shortly, we'll be chatting to businesses who say they rely on weeks like this.
So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your company. And it's always brilliant to read on on your say what most of you are getting angry about this afternoon. And I have to admit, it is the Prime Minister of 15 days going on holiday. Lots of you getting in touch, and certainly getting in touch about the person that is supposedly running the country while the Prime Minister is off. Brits Forever says, so if we have a serious civil uprising, which is entirely possible the way things are going, we have to leave it to Louise Hay to sort out, a convicted fraudster. Louise conviction is spent, by the way, but a lot of you aren't confident that Louise would be good in charge of running the country.
And Chalk Carrot says, oh, come on, everybody, talking it out or taking it out on Andy Burnham for going on holiday. Don't forget that the poor bloke had that tough job of being the mayor of Manchester for the last 5 months or so of this year, and not forgetting the stress of having to do that election that he may have lost.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, and he has been sort of like, you know, manoeuvring for a year, hasn't he, to get the main job, and that's before the decades that he spent manoeuvring to get the main job, and he goes on holiday. Look, we understand.
You've got the main job. Show intent, surely.
Well, exactly.
Show intent that you're there, you're rolling up your sleeves, you're getting down. There's so many problems this country faces. Yeah. It isn't a good look. I'm sorry.
No. So
15 days into the job too.
Well, we wouldn't do that.
Skedaddle off.
I can't think of a single job that I've ever. In fact, when I got the job editing a national newspaper, I didn't have a holiday for 2 years.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of our viewers on your say said, well, you know, GB News can hardly speak. Your presenters are constantly filling in for others. The difference is these are not presenters that have just come into the job 15 days earlier that have gone off on holiday. And by the way, they're just presenters, not the Prime Minister of the country.
I mean, some of them will be good running the country, to be fair. Well, but, I mean, you know, but they're not. So gbnews.com/your say.
I wouldn't put Tom Harwood in charge of the country.
That's a very fair point, by the way. But if you are wondering where the lovely Tom is today and why I've got the lovely Mark sitting next to me, he's slightly poorly, but I'm sure him and Emily will be back tomorrow. But get in touch, let us know your views on everything we're talking about, especially holidays, because there's loads more coming up after the latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. The top stories this hour. People jailed for rape, serious child sex offences and grooming will be excluded from the upcoming early prison release scheme the government's announced. It comes after Prime Minister Andy Burnham responded to backlash to the plan, which was initiated by the Starmer administration with the goal of easing prison overcrowding. Mr Burnham has also delayed the start of the scheme from September to October and said he wanted to go even further, but it was not possible without the prison system collapsing, putting the public at much greater risk, he said. The policy has been controversial since the outset, but returned to prominence earlier this month when it emerged that a policeman's killers may be among those eligible for early release. PC Andrew Harper was killed in 2019 while responding to a quad bike theft in Berkshire. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says the Labour government has been too slow to act.
Labour have been too slow to do this. Andy Burnham has been too slow. I put an amendment down on legislation to stop the release of rapists and paedophiles. Labour MPs voted against it. They're only doing this now because of the pressure which I and others, Conservatives and others, have been putting on them, and we will continue to do so. We do not want to see the early release of killers. I'm glad that the government wants to stop the release of rapists, but they need to get on with it, not just talk about it.
Justice Secretary Alex Norris says he understands the disappointment felt by many, but says it's the best that the government can do at this time.
Without these changes, we run out of prison places in October or November of this year. Now, me as a new Justice Secretary, Andy Burnham as a new Prime Minister, have heard the concerns about some of the people possibly involved in this. So we paused it and we've looked again. We have been able to, as you said, remove rapists, to remove child sex abusers from scope of that release from prison. However, you know, we would like to have gone further, but we can't. This is as far as we can go and still have prison places. And I know that's very disappointing and upsetting to victims and their families, but it's the best we could manage at this time.
The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called for emergency talks amid growing tensions between EU member states after almost 70,000 Moroccans poured into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta last week. Today, EU interior ministers will have emergency talks by video conference to discuss. The scenes in Ceuta have strained relations among some of the EU's 27 member states. In a letter to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, von der Leyen praised his swift handling of the crisis. Meanwhile, pressure is building on Andy Burnham to come up with a solution to the illegal migrant crisis in Britain, with over 2,000 arrivals since the beginning of his premiership. Well, that comes as a major air and sea rescue has taken place in the English Channel this morning after a so-called mega dinghy sank, tipping almost 160 illegal immigrants into the sea. Multiple British and French rescue vessels were called to the scene around 8 a.m. after the engine on the giant dinghy is reported to have caught fire. A total of 157 migrants ended up in the water and were pulled to safety by the arriving rescue ships. Medics from Boulogne-sur-Mer were helicoptered aboard rescue boats to treat the injured as they were landed aboard. Multiple migrants have suffered the effects of hypothermia, but at this stage there are no reports of any serious injuries. US President Donald Trump says he hopes to have a great relationship with Prime Minister Andy Burnham, but says he must get control of energy and immigration.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you.
Elsewhere, NHS staff are facing a growing wave of racist abuse from patients, according to a new report. Patients have reportedly refused to be treated by a number of healthcare workers, stating their race was the reason why. The Society of Radiographers says incidents have risen noticeably over the past 18 months and is calling on the NHS to formally record and monitor racist abuse. And finally, detectives investigating the fatal stabbing of a 21-year-old student in a North London park have now offered a £20,000 reward for information on the whereabouts of a man they urgently wish to trace. The Metropolitan Police have also appealed directly to 22-year-old suspect Jordan Asije, urging him to do the right thing and hand himself in. The force released a picture of Mr Asije this morning, adding he's known to spend time in North London. Finbar Sullivan was a filmmaking student and he was stabbed to death during a fight in Primrose Hill. It was in the early evening on Tuesday, the 7th of April. Police said another man in his 20s also suffered injuries that were not life-threatening or life-changing. Those are the latest headlines at 1 o'clock. More news in half an hour. Here's the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.34 and €1.17. The price of gold, £3,013 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 10,893 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. It is just coming up to, well, just gone 1:10. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is facing pressure after it emerged that the two men convicted over the 28 killing of police officer Andrew Harper could still be eligible for early release from prison.
Well, that's after Andy Burnham announced that offenders convicted of grooming gang rape will be excluded from the scheme.
Well, in the past hour, the Prime Minister has said the system is now dangerously close to capacity and we are running out of risk of new offenders not being incarcerated in a timely manner. Andy Burnham announced that the government would convert some women's prisons to men's, fast returns for foreign national criminals and review indefinite sentences.
OK, we're joined now in the studio by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Olivia, in terms of releasing, thousands, up to 5,000 of these offenders back into the community, it's clear from the messages we're getting, this is not popular in the country at all.
No, it's an incredibly unpopular policy, and it is obviously one that Andy Burnham wanted to curtail. When he became Prime Minister a couple of weeks ago, he said that he was going to look at it, and we all thought by that he meant he was going to scrap it. Clearly, he's now looked at the numbers with his Justice Secretary and the Ministry of Justice and decided that actually scrapping the early release scheme altogether is impossible. Now, he's found some sort of uncomfortable compromise. Instead of 5,000 people being released next month in September, 4,000 people-ish are going to be released in October. And some of the most serious offenders have been exempted from the early release scheme. But that still leaves domestic abusers, people convicted of manslaughter, like the killers of PC Harper. They will be released early, and of course that has gone down very badly indeed. The decision has been made on the basis, it sounds, of where we're at with the prison population. There are 89,000 places altogether in English prisons, and about 85,000, slightly more, have already been filled. So the prison system is at capacity pretty much. It's going to be a really, really tough ride for Andy Burnham, possibly his hardest decision yet as Prime Minister, and not very soon after he's going on holiday.
Well, indeed. Olivia Utley, thank you so much for now. OK, let's go to someone who's been at the sharp end of this, what's actually happening. Former prison governor and author Vanessa Frake. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today. Good to see you. Vanessa, what do you make of the mess we're in with this now?
Oh, where to begin, Dawn? Good afternoon to you both. Look, I think Andy Burnham had the opportunity to really get a grip of this Sentencing Act. He could have included those done for manslaughter. He could have included domestic violence and everything that entails, and he chose not to. And I don't believe for a word that was impossible. Look, we had COVID 4 or 5 years ago. We had Nightingale hospitals up in days. There are bases, army bases, RAF bases, just waiting, empty. If he wanted to, he could sort this. But yet again, he's missed an opportunity. To me, it shows weakness. As for Alex Norris, this guy has absolutely no experience whatsoever in the justice system. Yet he is now responsible. And I'm sure we'll see those pictures again that you're showing now of the releases popping champagne corks. For me, it's time that, it was criminals who walked in fear, not victims and survivors of violent crime. And Andy Burnham had the opportunity and he completely wasted it.
Well, I think that's a really good point, Vanessa. And, violent offenders and sexual offenders, they're, of course, a concern. But the fact is we're still going to be releasing thousands upon thousands. In just this wave, there will be other waves because the overcrowding situation is not going to go away. These people, the recidivists, those responsible for the crimes that blight our communities. You know this, having worked in prison as a governor. These are the people that are going to go back at that. Most people right across the country, they're going to know when these individuals are back in their communities.
Yes, of course they will. And look, let's not forget here, we might release 4,000 prisoners of various crimes, but how many of those, as you say, are going to commit crime again and end up back in prison? So not only will we chock our prison up with those that we've already let out, we're going to chock them up again with those coming up to sentencing by the courts. So I absolutely put money that this time, 6 months' time, we'll be having this discussion again, and it'll be, let's release even more.
Vanessa, what do you think of suggestions that we release more women's prisoners from the women's prisons and use them to house men, and with the fact that we send foreign prisoners home?
OK, look, Dawn, we have over 100 treaties with foreign countries to retake their convicted prisoners back. The number one is Albania, because we have the most Albanian prisoners. We have treaties with Zambia, with Nigeria, etc., etc. Why aren't these people on a plane? That's what I'd like to know. Also, look, with women, I do understand, but most people are under the perception that women don't commit violent crime. Well, we've got about 3,500 female prisoners at the moment. 58% of those are in for violent crime. The rest, it's usually drugs, which can be managed in the community, absolutely. But that still gives you around 1,500 beds to play around with. Shut somewhere like Downview and open it up as a male jail, absolutely.
Vanessa, great to get your insight as always. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah.
I think Vanessa's right. Just get rid of these foreign national offenders.
Well, it's about 10,000, and from the last time I checked on the figures, there are about 1,000 Brits abroad that even if we take them back in return, I mean, it still makes perfect sense numbers-wise.
Yeah, we'll take these ne'er-do-wells back, but get rid of the foreign offenders.
OK. Let us know what you think about that one, though. Please do. gbnews.com/your say. Right, it's 17 minutes past 1, and that means it's time for the Great British Giveaway, and the time is indeed ticking on your chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar worth over £5,000. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details.
Welcome to Augsust by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating a golden summer. And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won. That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it? You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted. Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck with that. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, there is. More than 3,000 children are waiting to be adopted, but there are fewer than half as many approved families available. Why are so many children being left in care when millions of Brits say they'd consider adoption? But after the break.
Benefit claimants are being offered discounts on everything from package holidays to sex toys through private disability schemes.
Well done, Mark. You didn't at all crack up on that one. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. When Mark, stop blushing. We'll see you soon.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is coming up to 23 minutes past 1. Now, I have to read this out because Mark just can't cope with it anymore. Benefit claimants are reportedly being offered discounts on everything from package holidays to...
That's fine.
...sex toys.
Yeah, that's also fine, if that's your thing.
This is through private schemes aimed at disabled people and people suffering things like your mental health condition. This is according to The Telegraph today.
Well, some offers even, are available to people receiving personal independence payment, including those with hidden disabilities such as ADHD and anxiety. But the companies behind the discounts insist they're privately funded by retailers and cost taxpayers nothing, and help disabled people cope with the extra costs of living.
OK, joining us now is author and a confidence coach, V Portland. V, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I understand that you know, there are some instances like you know getting out and about, maybe sort of like travelling to sort of like, I don't know, the Tower of London, for example, how that can help people who are suffering stress and anxiety, etc. But sex toys?
Aren't we entitled to have a good sex life when we're able?
I don't know. I've been married for a long time. I can't remember.
Then maybe you do need them.
But this is this being paid for by taxpayers? The implication in this story, it seems to be the case.
No, all of these are funded by the organisations themselves, by the businesses themselves. So the taxpayers do not pay a single penny towards any of these discounts.
Well, I suppose on that point, then, there's nothing wrong with it. If it was the taxpayer that was having to foot the bill for an array of sex toys, then people might raise an eyebrow or two and wonder whether we should be paying for the sex lives of anyone, regardless of their potential disability. But you're saying it's the companies themselves, out of the goodness of their heart, why are they doing it?
It's possibly, it could be a variety of reasons. It could be because they have a social responsibility in their business setup. It could be they have life experience of living with a disability or have people in their lives do. Maybe they're just very lovely people.
Well,
I
sex
don't know.
toy manufacturers, you think, have this community responsibility? Well, they might do. I mean, I wonder, you know, you're saying that they are the ones that are providing the discount, whether that is actually, in truth, what the situation is.
That's what they were saying. If you contact any company that offers these discounts and any of the cards that enable disabled people to get these discounts, they will all say the funding comes from those businesses, not the taxpayers.
They're just reading through the actual report, Heavy, there is some grey area about whether that's actually the case or not. But we do actually have 4 million people who claim disability benefits in the UK at the moment, with a third claiming mental health as their main disabling condition. Now, if we are talking, you know, people with a mild anxiety, for example, being given these benefits and indeed given these freebies, it doesn't actually sound fair to the vast majority of people who work hard and pay their tax.
When you put it like that, of course not. But the reality is getting PIP is incredibly hard. It's a demoralising, debilitating, very long process to get it. And a lot of us get refused.
Is it really that hard?
It's really hard.
Well, we're told that
we're
told it can take place without a face-to-face conversation.
Oh, for most of us, no. I mean, I've been disabled all my life and I have never not had at least a phone call every time it's been renewed, because they want to, I'm never going to be cured. I was born with a disability. I'm going to die with my disabilities, but they check every 3 years to make sure I'm still disabled. You know, so it's an arduous process and it's not an easy process. And anyone that says it is hasn't gone through it.
OK, but we do know that going forward, because of our a lack of funding, which is obviously a problem in the area, that many people now who are long-term claimants of disability for mental health conditions are just going to be signed off without that interview, without even a telephone interview, which is not healthy for them. I mean, you know, it can trap people in the disability trap when they can be helped out of it.
20 years ago, I had a mental health breakdown and it was being told that I would never work again. I'd never be physically or mentally well enough to work again. That made me go, I have to change this. So most of us do want to work. If we're capable of it, we want to. And disability benefits aren't there to make us live the life of Riley. They're to help us cover the costs, to help us live a life, to help my life be able to be lived in comparison to someone who's not disabled. You know, all the things I have to consider. But for mental health, if you've never lived with mental health, it is crippling. It is. I remember being in that place and feeling like I was drowning all the time. Wouldn't you want to save someone who was drowning?
No, of course.
And disability benefit helps that.
No, absolutely. No one's downplaying serious mental health conditions, but I do question the 4 million people claiming disability benefit with a third claiming mental health. It does seem relatively high numbers, and lots of people who are who are struggling with the cost of living crisis would like some of the benefits being offered here. It's certainly the holiday discounts and things like that. Not so sure about the sex toys, but for now, V, thank you so much, and good luck with your continued health battle.
Yeah,
that's author and confidence coach V Portland there.
Thank you, V. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a healthy dose of scepticism at the very high levels of people claiming PIP now than claiming PIP just 2 or 3 years back, you know, doubled in size.
Yeah, it has risen.
And 4 million people on PIP, that's an awful lot of sex toys.
OK, the founder of Purple, Georgina Coleman, said all the offers on her website were privately funded by the brand, have no impact on welfare spending and exist to help reduce the extra cost of disability.
OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. But first, the news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Mark, thank you very much. The top stories at 1:30. People jailed for rape, serious child sex offences and grooming will be excluded from the upcoming early prisoner release scheme the government has announced. It comes after Prime Minister Andy Burnham responded to backlash to the plan initiated by the Starmer administration with the goal of easing prison overcrowding by putting it on pause and launching an urgent review. Elsewhere today, a major air and sea rescue has taken place in the English Channel this morning after a so-called mega dinghy sank, tipping almost 160 illegal migrants into the sea. Multiple British and French rescue vessels were called to the scene around 8 a.m. after the engine on the giant dinghies reported to have caught fire. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called for emergency talks amid growing tensions between EU member states after almost 70,000 Moroccans poured into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta last week. Today, EU interior ministers will have those emergency talks by video conference to discuss the issue. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Right, thank you very much, Tatiana. Honestly, it is like working with a child. He is definitely not a child, though. Now, stop it. There is lots more coming up on today's show. More than 3,000 children, talking of which, are waiting to be adopted. You can adopt, Mark, if you want, but there are fewer than half as many approved families available. So why are so many children being left in care when millions of Brits say they would consider adopting?
All that and much more coming your way on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst in parts of the southeast it's still hot and humid today, further north the bigger talking point is the showery rain, which is going to be quite heavy, quite thundery at times as well. There's an area of low pressure which is moving northeastwards across northern parts at the moment, and it's the frontal structure associated with this which has already brought a fair amount of rain to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we'll continue to see some hefty bursts of thundery rain through the afternoon in these places as well. Could see some relatively high rainfall totals, blustery winds, large hail as well, something to watch out for. Further south across England and Wales, a few showers in the west, staying dry in the east, and it's here where we'll have the highest temperatures, 31, 32 Celsius, feeling hot and humid. More hefty rain to come through the end of the day across northern parts of Scotland in particular. This is where the rain's going to be most persistent. Further south across parts of Northern Ireland, central eastern parts of Scotland, this is where the showers have the greatest chance of turning thundery. Some intense downpours, hail like I mentioned, and gusty winds. A few showers for parts of England and Wales, always more likely across central and western parts, though some eastern areas towards Lincolnshire, Yorkshire should see some showers in the southeast staying dry, and here it should stay dry overnight with a fair amount of clear skies. Elsewhere, bursts of showery rain here and there. The more persistent rain across parts of northern Scotland will edge a little bit further northwards, really just affecting Orkney and Shetland. It is going to be a warm night, especially in the southeast. Temperatures holding up in the high teens. Elsewhere, many places holding up in the mid-teens for most. Then into tomorrow, a bit of showery rain here and there to start, but actually as we go through the day, heavier rain pushing across parts of Northern Ireland and more intense thundery downpours developing across central and eastern parts of Scotland. Further south and especially towards the southeast, whilst it won't be anywhere near as hot as today, it's still going to be largely sunny. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. There is an obstruction on the M23 northbound between junctions 9 and 8 in Reigate. The M3 eastbound between junctions 4 and 3 in Camberley has a lane closure. The M1 northbound between junctions 4 and 5 in Elstree also has a lane closure with slow traffic. The M11 southbound at junction 14 in Girton is affected by an incident. Across Wales, the A5 at Menai Bridge is closed. And on the trains, cross-country and Great Western Railway services have reduced service between Newport and Cardiff Central, with disruption between Oxford and Didcot Parkway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 35 minutes past 1. Now, a children's charity has warned of a worrying decline in the number of families approved to adopt.
Yes, latest figures suggest over 3,000 children in England are waiting for a family, while there are only 1,350 families with approval.
Yeah, campaigners say more support is urgently needed to encourage people to come forward.
Well, it comes as the Department for Education says it's drawing up plans to improve adoption services and has boosted funding for specialist therapy.
So let's talk now to the founder of Jigsaw Adoption, Eric Firm. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Really good to see you. What's going on here, Eric? Why are so many children just left in care, not being adopted?
Really good question. And this is, let me start off by saying that this is not a new thing. This has been a steady decline since about 2014-15, which is when we had the highest levels of approvals of adopters after the big reforms that were done in 13. So if you look at 12 months periods, in 14, we had about 5,200 approved families, and the latest 12 months for which we have data, we have about 2,200. So it's a more than 50% decline. So more than half of approved families have disappeared. And in the meantime, we've seen an increase in the children in care population from about 69,000, 70,000 to just over 80,000. So we got two slow trends going on for more than 10 years. And unfortunately, both of them are going in the wrong direction.
So what do you think lies at the root of this? Is it the adoption agencies becoming more and more risk-averse in terms of who they approve for adoption?
There's a little bit of that going on, but if you look at the probability of being approved once you've actually started the process, it hasn't changed that much in the last 10 years. It's a little bit harder now if you look at the data, but not much. So the big thing is that the number of people starting the process has also gone down by about 50%. And then the question is, why is that? Are people not coming forward? And the honest answer is that there isn't any really good data on that. But what we are hearing from adopters coming to Jigsaw Adoption is that they've been to the local authority, they've been to the big voluntary adoption agencies like the Corums and the Barnados, and they have long queues and long waiting lists. So I think it's more a problem that people who want to adopt aren't allowed into the process, or they're not allowed into the process quickly enough. And that has led to this decline. And then the question is, why is this happening? And I think, I'm guessing here, I should be transparent about that, but I think if you look at local authorities, they would probably give you the answer that, hey, we haven't got a budget to get more adopters through the process. That would be my guess. Now, that is, I think, probably correct, but the reality is that children not being adopted ends up costing the local authorities and the taxpayer much more, because they then grow up in foster care. And that's, of course, a human tragedy, because for most children growing up in foster care, it just isn't a great way to start life. You have a much higher likelihood of ending up with crime, drugs, etc. But it's also costing the local authorities and the taxpayer an awful lot in form of fostering fees, fees for children's homes. I mean, we've seen it all over the news recently. And what's going on is that the pressure on the system, the shortage of foster carers and the shortage of residential care places has allowed providers to put up the prices. And we see these headlines with quite ridiculous price levels. If a child is adopted, on the other hand, there is a cost to get the adoption done, but once the family has its adoption order, it's a family just like any other family. It's very unlikely to cost the local authority and the taxpayer any money. So if you looked at the whole cost, adoption is actually very good value for money. And it is a much better it's a much better way for children to grow up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I listened to our colleague Miriam Cates talking about this story earlier on today, and she was saying about the family that she knows who are, perfect for adopting a child. And just in case they were allowed to adopt a disabled child, they had to adapt their home for a disabled child before they're even approved for it. So it does seem to be making it very difficult for some families to adopt. Lots of hurdles in the way. And at the same time, Eric, we hear horror stories of people that should be nowhere near children allowed to adopt.
Yes. There is a bit of that going on. And I think there's two things going on there. One is that adoption, where it sits in a local authority. I mean, we are private and independent, not-for-profit organizations, so we're not part of a local authority. But adoption sits in children's social care in a local authority, so it sits together with child protection. And that means that there is a tendency to be colored by that and to, if I'm exaggerating a little bit, to view every adult as a potential threat to a child. And that is, of course, not true to people not true of people coming forward to adopt, because they just want to be parents. There's no reason to believe that they are going to be risks to children. So you get this obstacle course approach. You put up hoops that they have to jump through, and they have to prove this, that, and the other. And that makes it, for many families wishing to adopt, it makes it a very tough experience, and many of them drop out, which is very unfortunate, because we desperately need adopters. So and this is actually the reason we started Jigsaw Adoption just over 10 years ago, is that my co-founder had been through this process, and we said, hey, we got to do this better, and we got to do it in a more positive way that is more focused on what adopters can do, or potential adopters can do, rather than what could potentially be problems. As for the horror stories where children end up being hurt or even killed by adopters, yes, that has happened. And I think that is because in some cases the bar was lowered for whatever reason. And then, dare I say it, there is a tendency in media to focus on the negative stories, because, a family adopting children living just like any other family for the next 10 years is not really news, is it? Mm-hmm. So those cases, fortunately, are few and far between. But of course, every case is one too many, no question about that. But I think as a whole, the adoption sector doesn't have a problem that we're approving people on a large scale that shouldn't come near children. I genuinely don't think that's the case.
OK, Eric Fern from Jigsaw Adoption, thanks very much for speaking to us this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's very sad that there are so many youngsters. I mean, we all know the best place for a child to grow up is with a mum and dad in a family environment. Indeed. And being cared for. So children in care is just awful. OK, now we can cross over to some live shops of Ceuta in Spain. EU leaders have met today to discuss the situation, with Italy asking for EU-funded migrant centres. These are the live shots here. We can obviously still see, Mark, that many of the migrants are still on the beach. We do know that 60,000 crossed. Many have gone home, but there are still many there determined to make it into mainland Spain and then into the Schengen zone, where anything goes.
It's a deceptive scene that you're looking at there. It looks, for all intents and purposes, that these are people just enjoying the summer sun in Ceuta, but actually what's happening here, these are some of the migrants that have come over, some from Morocco, others from sub-Saharan Africa, who have come over since the weekend. Remember those incredible scenes that we brought you at the back end of last week and into the weekend, of so many people, well over 60,000, that poured over the border. Now, the Spanish authorities tell us that they have returned the vast majority back over the border to Morocco. But it's clear from people that we've been speaking to in Ceuta that actually there are still many of these migrants still within that enclave, that population of 80-odd thousand there in the area, that haven't yet been returned back across the border. Now, that might be because they are from sub-Saharan Africa, because it's easier to push Moroccans back over the border, potentially into their home country, but actually those from sub-Saharan Africa it's much more difficult.
Yes, but the European Union has told Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister in Spain, that he must accept Spain being placed under special measures because the hostilities that have broken out amongst the Schengen zone, amongst the EU countries, obviously led by Italy and ironically Denmark, which isn't known for having right-wing government. It's causing all sorts of issues all across Europe, and obviously once they do get into the Schengen zone, then there are no borders, of porous borders. That means they could be arriving on the Channel coast. But it is interesting, Mark, that Spain has denied the migrants food and water in an effort to get them to leave. Now, can you imagine if we did that in this country rather than giving them a hotel?
And there's a prized member of the European Union denying them food and water, and of course also pushing them back over the border without any regard to them claiming asylum like they might do if they arrive in the UK. There would be absolute and utter uproar in this country if this government was to behave like that. But it just shows you, even in the European Union, if you're determined enough, you can absolutely do this, as the Spanish are now being forced to do.
Yeah, we would be in all sorts of trouble though, wouldn't we? There'd be lefty lawyers all over it. Oh, you can't do that, you can't do that, you're starving them, you've got to give them a hotel, give them money, etc. But Spain, it is the EU has offered emergency aid, but also the Spanish are doing what they need to do. But we couldn't do that, could we? And let us know what you think about that one at gbnews.com/yoursake. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yeah, business booming this summer. Holiday in the contested sunniest place in the UK, the Isle of Wight, will be there live.
I don't even know. Why is it contested?
I don't know. It made no sense to me.
Well, it's not Scotland, is it, the sunniest place? No, no, definitely not. Any case, if you are in search of some holiday sun, maybe joining our Prime Minister. We don't know where he is, but I'm sure it's lovely. Here's a forecast for some of those
Maybe he's on the Isle of Wight.
Oh, who knows? It's a forecast for some of those top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heat is building and intensifying across central and eastern parts of Europe through the next few days. Fine for many parts of Europe, but the risk of thunderstorms for the Alps and a few scattered elsewhere in many parts. I think for the Canary Islands, mostly dry with sunny spells and feeling hot here. 1 or 2 showers and thunderstorms for northern and eastern parts of Spain, otherwise hot sunshine. But the temperatures across Italy into Croatia, more especially into Hungary and Bulgaria, really quite high for the time of year, up into the high 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Yes, the Malaysian government has announced that it will renew the search for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, which disappeared 10 years ago without a trace.
Yes, the plane was carrying 239 people from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Previous attempts to locate the plane have all failed, leaving the families of those on board without any kind of closure.
Well, for more on this, let's speak to Terry Tozer, a former airline pilot and author of Confessions of an Airline Pilot, Why Planes Crash. Terry, you sound like the perfect man to talk to about this, because this is perhaps the biggest aviation mystery of our modern age.
Yeah, it is, and obviously a great tragedy as well. It's good to know that they're going to have another crack at trying to find it.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is just health and safety gone mad. It's not the role of public authorities to be telling people what's for their best interest. And the reality is it's probably better to take the chance of a tree branch falling on you than going out in the sun and getting getting burnt in the sun. But the reality is the reason why these councils are saying you've got to stay out of underneath the trees is they don't want anybody to get struck by a branch which they have a liability to, whilst they don't have a liability for anybody getting sunburnt. So it's all to do with public liability. I mean, if you look at East Cheshire Council, for example, in 2024, they had to pay out £500,000 because a branch fell on somebody.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In my hand, I have a colander. I have a piece of paper. Yes, there you have one too. So I'm going to run it so you can see me. So I think what you do is you shine, you indicate, you tell me what to do, and I'll do it for you.
You never look at the sun directly.
Yep,
you allow the light to go through the colander, and that'll actually act as a pinhole camera and project images of the sun onto the piece of paper, and then you can look at the piece of paper and see the eclipse take place. Simple as that. You can do it also by using binoculars or a telescope and projecting an image through from them onto a piece of paper. Yep. That will work just as well. Or get a bucket of water, let it settle, and look in the bucket of water, and you'll see the image of the sun in the water, and then you can observe the eclipse that way.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Okay, good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 to 2.
It is indeed, yes. I love the way it's 10 to 2. Very Scottish there. OK, that was terrible, that accent. Yeah. More than 7,000 sailors are taking to the Solent today as Cowes Week, the world's oldest and most prestigious sailing regatta, gets into full swing.
Well, the event has been a fixture of the British sporting calendar for almost 2 centuries, attracting everyone from Olympic champions to royalty.
So naturally we have sent GB News South of England reporter Isabel Feculek to the Isle of Wight to find out what's going on. Isabel.
Well, good afternoon to you both. Well, the island here is known as one of the sunniest places in the UK, and for that reason I chose not to bring a jacket today, and it seems that this drought we've experiencing here has just come to an end. A little bit of rain now. It's been such great conditions for the first few days of Cowes Week, but it's certainly not stopped the 100,000 visitors who are attracted by Cowes Week to come to the Isle of Wight, and it's so brilliant to see Cowes this busy. It's absolutely buzzing with atmosphere, and for the businesses that operate here in Cowes and on the island as a whole, this is a great boost for business. They operate very seasonally, and the island is quite economically isolated. They rely a lot on tourism, so this week is brilliant for them. It is one of some of the neighbourhoods in the Isle of Wight. 3 of the neighbourhoods are actually the top 10% most deprived in the UK, so it's really important to get lots of people visiting the island and to get this kind of atmosphere. It's so special to see so many people enjoying this, even in the rain. And we're going to speak to some businesses. Of course, it has been very hot, so it's been important to stay hydrated. The people here have been helping people with that. They call themselves the First Aid Responders. Corinne, hello. Sorry to interrupt you guys. How are you? How are you enjoying Cowes Week? Is business booming?
You know what? Cowes Week's absolutely amazing. I come every year, but this is our first year we've been here with the First Aid Station, and it's absolutely amazing. The people are lovely. It's just a lovely vibe. It really is.
And in terms of business, of course, lots of businesses here on the island operate seasonally. Is this a good week?
We're a seasonal business. We are the First Aid Station, and we're first responders. So if it's hot, you need a fresh lemonade. And it's good. It's very seasonal, but it's fine. It's lovely.
Do weeks like this kind of carry you through the year in terms of a business?
Absolutely, because we're here all week. So come down and see us. Come down to the parade in Cowes. It's just a lovely place to be, especially for us. Yeah, we're very honoured. We're very honoured to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Could I, while I'm here, I might get myself... Wow, you have one ready. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I've got a fresh lemonade here to enjoy. Thank you, guys. Lots of people have been enjoying lots of different things, lots of attractions. Of course, the sailing, as you say, the world's oldest and largest regatta of its kind. So we'll be here, we'll be taking it all in. We'll be chatting to lots of businesses too who are getting a great boost from this year's Cowes Week, the 200th one as well, so it's bigger and better than ever, and I'm just going to enjoy my lemonade now.
Brilliant. Cheers. Isabel, thank you so much. I'm sure that was just lemonade. Yeah, right, of course.
You've been doing a sterling job.
This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Loads more coming up, all after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst in parts of the southeast it's still hot and humid today, further north the bigger talking point is the showery rain, which is going to be quite heavy, quite thundery at times as well. There's an area of low pressure which is moving northeastwards across northern parts at the moment, and it's the frontal structure associated with this which has already brought a fair amount of rain to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we'll continue to see some hefty bursts of thundery rain through the afternoon in these places as well. Could see some relatively high rainfall totals, blustery winds, large hail as well, something to watch out for. Further south across England and Wales, a few showers in the west, staying dry in the east, and it's here where we'll have the highest temperatures, 31, 32 Celsius, feeling hot and humid. More hefty rain to come through the end of the day across northern parts of Scotland in particular. This is where the rain's going to be most persistent. Further south across parts of Northern Ireland, central eastern parts of Scotland, this is where the showers have the greatest chance of turning thundery. Some intense downpours, hail like I mentioned, and gusty winds. A few showers for parts of England and Wales, always more likely across central and western parts, though some eastern areas towards Lincolnshire, Yorkshire should see some showers in the southeast staying dry, and here it should stay dry overnight with a fair amount of clear skies. Elsewhere, bursts of showery rain here and there. The more persistent rain across parts of northern Scotland will edge a little bit further northwards, really just affecting Orkney and Shetland. It is going to be a warm night, especially in the southeast. Temperatures holding up in the high teens. Elsewhere, many places holding up in the mid-teens for most. Then into tomorrow, a bit of showery rain here and there to start, but actually as we go through the day, heavier rain pushing across parts of Northern Ireland and more intense thundery downpours developing across central and eastern parts of Scotland. Further south and especially towards the southeast, whilst it won't be anywhere near as hot as today, it's still going to be largely sunny. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 4th of August. I'm Dawn Neeson.
And I'm Mark White. Rapists and child sex offenders will be blocked from Labour's early release scheme after a furious public backlash. But what about the burglars, drug dealers and violent thugs who terrorise communities? Why should any criminal walk free before serving their sentence?
Yes, Andy Burnham has made an uncomfortable compromise. Rapists won't be released early, but those convicted of manslaughter will. Will it be enough to save the collapsing prison system? Find out more with me very soon.
Meanwhile, that very same Andy Burnham has headed off on holiday after just 15 days as Prime Minister.
And as he heads out of the country, more than 160 migrants were headed into the country until their boat caught fire in the Channel.
And live shots here you can see from Ceuta. The EU earlier for crunch talks, offering Spain emergency aid to reinforce their border after an influx of over 70,000 migrants now crossed into the enclave.
Burnham backing farmers. Well, the PM says he'll look again at inheritance tax changes. But what do Britain's farmers make of him so far? We'll speak to some.
And we'll be live in the Isle of Wight, where business is booming.
Well, the rain has just arrived here at Cowsby, but that has not stopped up to 100,000 people from visiting the island, an island that relies solely on local tourism. We'll be chatting to local business owners later on.
I have to say, we're running out of time last hour, but I was saying Isabel's done fantastic work on the Isle of Wight all week. It's really good that GB News as a channel gets to events like this. We'll often go around the country to events that are important to people that other people elsewhere in the country don't see as much, and other channels don't really cover it. We're proud and happy to do that.
No, absolutely. And which is why on Thursday, let's give people a little reminder, we are celebrating around the country our 5 years of GB News. It's a massive knees up, so you don't want to miss that day. We'll be doing the biggest GB News live show ever, live from Essex. But we are all around the country, Wales, Scotland, all over the place.
We'll be down in Essex, I think.
We will. I'll be giving you a few lessons in how to speak fluent Essex.
Yes, I'll look forward to that.
I'm not holding my breath.
But our detractors, of course, we know, never gave this channel a shot, predicting that within weeks it would be closing doors. But here we are, 5 years later, and not just, surviving, but thriving. As Britain's #1 news channel.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to you, our loyal army of viewers and listeners. We're on the radio as well. So thank you all so much for actually sticking with us and growing. We are growing. We are actually getting bigger.
Well, I'm certainly growing, but, that's the prize for you.
In any case, all of that coming up after the latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories. People jailed for rape, serious child sex offences and grooming will be excluded from the upcoming early release scheme the government has announced. It comes after Prime Minister Andy Burnham responded to the backlash to that plan, which was initiated by the Starmer administration with the goal of easing prison overcrowding. Mr Burnham has also delayed the start of the scheme from September to October and said he wanted to go even further, but it wasn't possible without the prison system collapsing, putting placing the public at much greater risk, he said. The policy has been controversial since the outset, but returned to prominence earlier this month when it emerged a policeman's killers may be among those eligible for early release. PC Andrew Harper was killed in 2019 while responding to a quad bike theft in Berkshire. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says the Labour government has been too slow to act.
Labour have been too slow to do this. Andy Burnham has been too slow. I put an amendment down on legislation to stop the release of rapists and paedophiles. Labour MPs voted against it. They're only doing this now because of the pressure which I and others, Conservatives and others, have been putting on them, and we will continue to do so. We do not want to see the early release of killers. I'm glad that the government wants to stop the release of rapists, but they need to get on with it, not just talk about it.
Justice Secretary Alex Norris says he understands the disappointment felt by many people, but says it's the best the government can do at this time.
Without these changes, we run out of prison places in October or November of this year. Now, me as a new Justice Secretary, Andy Burnham as a new Prime Minister, have heard the concerns about some of the people possibly involved in this. So we paused it and we've looked again. We have been able to, as you said, remove rapists, to remove child sex abusers from scope of that release from prison. However, you know, we would like to have gone further, but we can't. This is as far as we can go and still have prison places. And I know that's very disappointing and upsetting to victims and their families, but it's the best we could manage at this time.
Breaking news this hour. Police say a 14-year-old boy drowned in London on Monday. Officers were called at 6:48 p.m. on the 3rd of August to reports the boy had entered the Millwall Outer Dock near East Ferry Road. He was retrieved from the river at 10:30 p.m. and pronounced dead, the Metropolitan Police said. The boy's death is being treated as unexpected but not suspicious. Elsewhere, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called for emergency talks amid growing tensions between EU member states after almost 70,000 Moroccans poured into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta last week. Today, EU interior ministers will have emergency talks by video conference to discuss. The scenes in Ceuta have strained relations among some of the EU's 27 member states. In a letter to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, von der Leyen praised his swift handling of the crisis. Meanwhile, pressures building on Andy Burnham to come up with a solution to the illegal migrant crisis in Britain, with over 2,000 arrivals since the beginning of his premiership. Well, that's as a major air and sea rescue has taken place in the English Channel this morning after a so-called mega dinghy sank, tipping almost 160 illegal immigrants into the sea. Multiple British and French rescue vessels were called to the scene around 8 a.m. after the engine on the giant dinghy is reported to have caught fire. A total of 157 migrants ended up in the water and were pulled to safety by the arriving rescue ships. Medics from Boulogne-sur-Mer were helicoptered aboard rescue boats to treat the injured as they were landed aboard. Multiple migrants suffered the effects of hypothermia, but at this stage there are no reports of any serious injuries. And NHS staff are facing a growing wave of racist abuse from patients, according to a new report. Patients have reportedly refused to be treated by a number of healthcare workers, stating their race was the reason why. The Society of Radiographers says the incidents have risen noticeably over the past 18 months and is calling on the NHS to formally record and monitor racist abuse. Those are the latest headlines for now.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Just after 8 minutes past 2, this is Good Afternoon Britain, and the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is facing pressure after it emerged that two men convicted over the 2018 killing of police officer Andrew Harper could still be eligible for early release from prison.
Yes, that's after Burnham announced that offenders convicted of a grooming gang rape will be excluded from the scheme.
Well, in the last couple of hours, the Prime Minister said the system is now dangerously close to capacity and we're running the risk of new offenders not being incarcerated in a timely manner. Andy Burnham, announced that the government would convert some women's prisons to men's, faster returns for foreign national criminals and a review of indefinite sentences.
So we're joined now in the studio by GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, I can't believe, we seem to be having this conversation for quite a while, I can't believe we are discussing the fact that some sex offenders will be let out. I mean, surely, especially child sex offenders, you know, the serious ones. It's like, we shouldn't even be having this conversation in the first place.
I mean, it does seem astonishing, and this policy has gone down like a lead balloon in the country and actually among Labour backbenchers. It's not a new policy. It's not Andy Burnham's idea. This was a policy that was brought in by Shabana Mahmood back in 2024 when it became clear that the prison system was about to collapse. Andy Burnham clearly wanted to curtail it. He wanted to scrap it altogether. He said a couple of weeks ago that he would look at it. Well, he has now looked at it, and he's clearly decided that he can't go as far as he would like to. He can't actually scrap it. That is because there are about 89,000 places in the English and Welsh prison system. 86,000 of those are currently filled, so we are almost at capacity. What he has done is cut it back a little bit. There was supposed to be 5,000 prisoners being released in September. He's made that 4,000 prisoners being released in October. And the people who he has excluded from the early release scheme are serious child sex offenders. Well, what's a non-serious child sex offender? And rapists, although those convicted of manslaughter and domestic violence will still be released early, and that's what's caused public outrage. I think this is a perfect example of how Andy Burnham is going to keep coming up against the reality of those very difficult numbers compared to his ideological policies. Of course, Labour backbenchers are furious about this. I think we're in for a similar row about jury trials. Andy Burnham has intimated that he would like to undo what David Lammy promised to do and continue to allow jury trials for more minor crimes. Will he be able to do that when he actually looks at the numbers? That's a row that's brewing.
But the thing is, I mean, in terms of those who are violent offenders, sexual offenders, that is, of course, a concern. No one wants to see individuals like that released. But even those that they claim to be low-level offenders are the ones who are the repeat offenders, who blight communities right across the country with burglaries and with phone thefts and break-ins and car thefts, you name it. They constantly reoffend, and communities are going to see soaring crime rates.
Well, exactly, and that was precisely the problem that happened when this early release scheme was first introduced back in 2024. There were stories all over the newspapers and that we reported on GB News of prisoners who had been released under the early release scheme and a few days later had reoffended and were back in prison. Just to put this in perspective a little bit, we're talking about the early release scheme. The early release scheme is a scheme that was brought in by Shabana Mahmood, which means that prisoners are routinely released after half their sentences. Bear in mind that all the time prisoners are usually released after serving just two-thirds of their sentences. So we could argue that almost every prisoner in the country is released early, and that is a problem which, as you say, Mark, is plaguing communities. What can Andy Burnham do about it? The obvious answer is to build lots and lots of prisons, but that is expensive and difficult.
Yeah, as Jay has just pointed out, though, what can Andy Burnham do about it? He can go on holiday. And that's exactly what he's done. Olivia Utley, thank you so much for explaining what's going on. Well, joining us now is the former national chairman of the Prison Officers Association, Mark Fairhurst. Good afternoon to you, Mark. In the interim, surely something they could do would be just put more prisoners in the one cell, pop-up prisons for the lower-level offenders. Surely there's something you can do that doesn't involve releasing all of these people back onto the streets again.
Well, the problem is we don't have enough space to satisfy the massive backlog in the courts, so something has to give. And it's essential that we create that space so we can incarcerate the most serious offenders from the courts. What you could do, you could include exemptions for those convicted of manslaughter. I don't think that would have such a massive effect on prison capacity. But you could also look at the remand population, which currently sits at about 17,000 people. Maybe if you give them an ankle tag, a GPS tag, those who are not accused of the most serious offences could be sent home and monitored electronically. So there are options available to create that capacity that we need.
And Mark, do we have enough staff to make that work, to monitor people who are released with tags? I mean, we've heard horrific stories from the grooming gang when people have been released of victims actually bumping into their attackers. All right, they're tagged, but they're bumping into their attackers on the street still.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? And this is what the consequences of the cuts are over the last 16 years because of austerity measures. It's now coming back to bite us. We have got a probation service which is absolutely on its knees. They can't cope with the current workload. And over the next 10 months, from October till June, we're going to heap on them at least another 5,000 early releases. How are they going to cope with that pressure?
Well, I think you raise a very pertinent point there. How are we going to monitor these people back in the community with a probation service on its knees, with these ankle tags that we know 9,000 of the offenders who are on these ankle tags that were supposed to be monitored were not being monitored?
And that's the issue, isn't it? Serco have failed the government, failed the public in the past. They still get these massive lucrative contracts and they can't supply enough ankle tags to monitor offenders in our communities. So long term, we really need to think sentencing policy. Do we really need to incarcerate so many people? What support services can we invest in our communities? So just to give you an example of what the future should hold, we are incarcerating quite a number of prisoners with acute mental health disorders simply because there are no secure mental health beds in our communities because of a lack of investment there. So let's rid our prisons of people who shouldn't be there and give them secure mental health beds. We have about 9,000 prisoners who are foreign national offenders. Can we repatriate them to their own countries to serve the remainder of their sentences there? We have a large female cohort of prisoners, 80% of which are in for non-violent offences. Why do we bang people up for non-violent offences? Surely we could support them in our communities, address their addictions, address their domestic abuse problems, cater for them more prolifically and proactively in our communities than in a prison environment. There are lots of options out there, but it's going to take a massive investment in a prison system which has been decimated because of budget cuts. And as we all know, prisons are not vote winners for any government.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, some very sensible solutions there. Let's hope someone from the government is actually making notes. That's former National Chairman of the Prison Officers Association, Mark Fairhurst, there for you.
Instinctively, I just really shudder at the thought of releasing thousands of people who should still be behind bars early into society again, because, as I say, it isn't even the violent and sex offenders that most people need to worry about. It's those repeat offenders, the recidivists, who are involved in the day-to-day crime that blights communities. That's what people right across the country are going to be faced with. Soaring crime levels and that individual who's major life and misery back on the streets again earlier than they should.
And what message is it sending out to criminals, and what message is it sending out to victims? You don't count. GBNews.com/yoursay. Please do get in touch. Now let's move on. A mega dinghy believed to be carrying 162 illegal immigrants has caught fire during an attempt to cross the channel. Search and rescue services were launched at around 6 a.m. on Tuesday after the vessel's engine went up in flames in French waters.
Well, joining us now is the migration expert, Mike Jones. Mike, good afternoon to you. Listen, this was very luckily a tragedy avoided. I think by the time it caught fire and sank, there was 157 migrants on board, but all thrown into the water. It really seems to be only a matter of time before one of these vessels, where they're just cramming more and more people on board, goes down, and there is a very, very significant loss of life.
Well, yeah, Mark, you're absolutely correct. And they're not seaworthy. These are not boats. They're referred to as dinghies for a reason. They're produced in flat pack style in China. They're often, shipped to Turkey, and then they're sent to the people smugglers via their supply chains. So these are not seaworthy vessels. That's what you've got to be clear on. They're not designed for long journeys. I mean, they can't resist even the mildest of tides, hence why the weather plays such a huge role in the channel migrant numbers. So these sorts of incidents and tragedies are completely unexpected. It's just part of the people smugglers' business model, and we should expect more of this to happen in the future.
And what do you make of the suggestion that Reform will come up with their Operation Fortress to use the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines to stop these boats crossing and to return migrants to France? Do you think that would work, Mike?
No, I don't. I mean, I've been against that policy before Nigel Farage became leader of Reform UK. So my basic view is the French will retaliate. So the operational side of it, there are big question marks around that. I think big question marks indeed. But ultimately, what the French will do is they will withdraw from bilateral agreements on the Channel Tunnel. So the Le Touquet agreement, Sangatte, and so on, they will withdraw from those. So British officials operating on French territory, trying to stop illegal immigrants, they will be expelled from French territory. Scanning, all the rest of it, that'll stop. So the Channel Tunnel will basically become the focus of illegal immigration into the UK. Of course, that is still a focal point. The gangs still operate there. But if you play a game of chicken with the French on this, the unintended consequences are going to be quite severe. And a lot of the illegal immigration that will take place will be clandestine, and it will be very difficult for the media to cover. But the demographic consequences on the United Kingdom will be probably more severe than what you're seeing across the English Channel. So yeah, I'm against it for purely those reasons. The instincts behind the policy, the patriotism, listen, I respect all of that, but the unintended consequences are awful.
Well, I think you might be right in terms of the French reaction. They're always going to act in their own self-interest here. But then maybe that's why a government that has a determination to deal with this issue, regardless of the potential conflict that puts you into with your nearest neighbour, is what's required here. We got some live images of Ceuta, that Spanish enclave in Morocco. You can see what's happened there with this unprecedented invasion of more than 60,000 at the back end of last week. But then very quickly, the Spanish just pushed them straight back over the border into Morocco. No regard at all for these people actually claiming asylum and going into the system as they would in this country. Perhaps just a tougher approach, as he can clearly do within the European Union, Mike, is what's called for at the end of the day.
Well, I'm glad you've called it an invasion, because that's precisely what it was. You know, call a spade a spade. And, you know, Zia Yusuf, to his great credit, has used this language. That's what it is. But I think the Ceuta analogy is completely false, because they have a land border with Morocco, and most of those people went back voluntarily. And there are lots of people there, by the way, still there, squatting, and they will want to apply for asylum. You know, ultimately, if you want the Channel Tunnel to exist, you need cooperation with the French. But listen, the people smugglers, that is their optimal area, in theory, of where they want to operate and earn money, is the Channel Tunnel. They're using the English Channel as a sort of plan B. But if the French withdraw all of their cooperation around the Channel Tunnel, that is where you're going to see all of the illegal immigrants come into this country. And, you know, it's not going to be visible. It's going to be clandestine. Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad.
OK, Mike, the one thing that many of our viewers and listeners are having trouble getting their heads around, as am I indeed, is that Spain are denying these immigrants food and water and just pushing them back to Morocco as quickly as they possibly can. We've got Germany putting people on planes back to Afghanistan, illegal migrants. And yet, as soon as we even sort of like dare to suggest that our illegal migrants get put in a barracks that's maybe secure, we're accused of all sorts. Why can other countries that are part of the EU get away with it, but we can't?
Well, I support those policies. detain and deport. Like, this is what I've supported for years and years, right? Build detention centres, abolish all the humanitarian laws in our books, Human Rights Act, you know, the laws introduced under the John Major governments, get rid of them all, leave the ECHR, establish pure national sovereignty over this issue, and detain and deport. That's what I support. But the thing is, on the Channel Tunnel, you need French cooperation, because a lot of these people can get here in purely clandestine fashion, and they'll try to stay here as long as possible. And if, you know, Prime Minister Farage becomes a reality, if Reform UK get into government, the illegal immigrants that get into this country will just stick it out, they'll slum it out. They'll wait for the Greens or Labour parties to come back into power, and then they'll claim asylum. So that's the big danger.
Yeah, of course, the French could end this themselves within a week or two by agreeing just to take everybody back that crossed the Channel in the first place. But, you know, who knows why they don't adopt that particular policy, because the long-suffering people of their coastal communities in northern France would certainly welcome it. Anyway.
Well, we keep giving them money, that's why.
Yeah, well,
I would as well for £1 million. Any case, Mike, thank you so much. That's migration expert Mike Jones. Lots of you getting in touch on this one. Please do keep them coming in. gbnews.com/your say. This is indeed Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, Andy Burnham, well, he's off on holiday. Just 15 days after taking over the reins at Downing Street. Nice job if you can get it.
But after the break, Andy does indeed say he'll look again at inheritance tax changes. But what do Britain's farmers make of him so far? We'll actually be speaking to a Welsh farmer for his opinion on Andy Burnham. And you don't want to miss that, do you? This is GB News at Britain's News Channel. We'll see you very soon.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 29 minutes past 2 o'clock already, and despite building a reputation as a proper city slicker, Andy Burnham is no stranger to the countryside.
Is that true?
Well, he might be on holiday in the countryside, who knows?
Well, the Prime Minister said he intends to revisit the controversial inheritance tax changes introduced by his predecessor. But what can farmers expect?
Let's talk to one, shall we? Let's talk to the wonderful Gareth Wynne-Jones, who is indeed a farmer in Wales, as you might have guessed from his name. Gareth, always good to talk to you, lovely. Andy Burnham's going to be nice to farmers. What do you make of this one?
I think we heard that before with Keir Starmer when he went to the NFU conference and told how he's going to protect family farms, and then the first budget he brings out inheritance tax. So yeah, they talk a good talk, but they don't walk a good walk. So it's early days. He's off on another joint, another holiday and a bit of enjoyment. So let him have his rest and relaxation while other people are working the land to feed the nation. We need to scrap inheritance tax completely. There's a lot more things government could be doing as well. I think we've got to have a look at this net zero craziness of all these solar farms going up, losing hundreds of thousands of acres of prime agricultural land to feed the nation. It's a small island with a growing population that needs to be fed. It's been a really, really tough few months for the farming community. You know, the cereal boys and the livestock, the dairy boys. I think you need to have a look at the way the supermarkets are treating the farming community, you know, fair price for fair food we're producing. And another thing, government should be procuring everything British, you know, for the hospitals, for the jails, for everything, schools. Procuring British food will then add more value to it. You know, build a better Britain on our bellies with good, seasonal, sustainable food that this country can provide. But it has to have the right backing. And if we've got a captain that seems to be, well, the one before was on a sinking ship and he's jumped off like a rat, hasn't he, as they usually do. But, you know, we need somebody that's got a big pair of you-know-whats that he can get to grips with this, scrap that inheritance tax, start to look at how we're producing food in this country in a way that it can be affordable for the masses, but farmers are having a fair price. And these multinational corporations aren't taking all the cream off everything.
Well, you're right, Gareth. I mean, the Prime Minister has always said he wants to encourage British business. He's doing it with defence. He wants British companies to be building the warships and planes, etc., that this country needs. You're saying he absolutely needs to focus that same effort on the farming communities as well. Make sure that the consumers, at the end of the day, the British public, are buying British.
Yeah, and they're getting the opportunity to have really good, nutritious, healthy food that's produced to the highest standards in the world, in this country. This is, you know, this is not the problem. We've got schools down the road that are shipping in Taiwanese chicken to feed local schools in Wales. You know, that's maybe a Welsh government problem, but I think the whole government of procuring for the army, for the jails and for everything else. Sorry, it's my tractor beeping now. I think it's heard Andy Burnham's in the bathroom when he's hearing this conversation, but you know, it's really important.
I think that was Gareth's battery that was beeping there, and I think it's now gone. Yeah. So, oh, no, you just slightly unfroze there. Could we just try again? No, he's still frozen.
No, he has frozen. Yeah, that's a shame. That is that was farmer Gareth Wynne-Jones talking to us.
Always up before the crack of dawn, unlike some of our politicians who can't do more than 15 days without the need to go off on holiday.
Indeed. And you know what, Mark? I can never get my... I've talked to Gareth and many, many farmers, as everybody has on GB News, about the way they're treated by this government. And it's so important. What does the government, not just this government, but the previous government, what do they not understand is so important about British farming?
Yeah.
We should be buying British more. Many other countries do it. We just seem to ignore what's really important in this country. And Gareth articulates it so well. So, hopefully Andy Burnham will be on holiday listening into what Gareth had to say there and taking notes, but I'm not holding my breath.
OK, your favourite part of the show now, the right of reply time. And DEFRA have said that we're backing our farmers with a record £11.8 billion for sustainable and profitable farming for this country, protecting the sector in trade deals and negotiating a new trade agreement with the EU, which will make it easier for British food to reach our largest supermarkets.
Yes, our 25-year farming roadmap sets out a clear vision for the future so our farmers can have the confidence once more to invest and feed the nation with pride for generations to come. I know I'm not meant to comment on that, but I mean, come on, really? Any case, thank you for that. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Andy Burnham, yes, that man who's just jetted off on 15 days, well, after 15 days in office, on holiday now. Was he right to do this?
All of that and much more to come. This is GB News at Britain's News Channel. We'll see you very soon.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst in parts of the southeast it's still hot and humid today, further north the bigger talking point is the showery rain, which is going to be quite heavy, quite thundery at times as well. There's an area of low pressure which is moving northeastwards across northern parts at the moment, and it's the frontal structure associated with this which has already brought a fair amount of rain to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we'll continue to see some hefty bursts of thundery rain through the afternoon in these places as well. Could see some relatively high rainfall totals, blustery winds, large hail as well, something to watch out for. Further south across England and Wales, a few showers in the west, staying dry in the east, and it's here where we'll have the highest temperatures, 31, 32 Celsius, feeling hot and humid. More hefty rain to come through the end of the day across northern parts of Scotland in particular. This is where the rain's going to be most persistent. Further south across parts of Northern Ireland, central eastern parts of Scotland, this is where the showers have the greatest chance of turning thundery. Some intense downpours, hail like I mentioned, and gusty winds. A few showers for parts of England and Wales, always more likely across central and western parts, though some eastern areas towards Lincolnshire, Yorkshire should see some showers in the southeast staying dry, and here it should stay dry overnight with a fair amount of clear skies. Elsewhere, bursts of showery rain here and there. The more persistent rain across parts of northern Scotland will edge a little bit further northwards, really just affecting Orkney and Shetland. It is going to be a warm night, especially in the southeast. Temperatures holding up in the high teens. Elsewhere, many places holding up in the mid-teens for most. Then into tomorrow, a bit of showery rain here and there to start, but actually as we go through the day, heavier rain pushing across parts of Northern Ireland and more intense thundery downpours developing across central and eastern parts of Scotland. Further south and especially towards the southeast, whilst it won't be anywhere near as hot as today, it's still going to be largely sunny. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M25 clockwise is affected by a collision between junctions 15 and 16 near Poyle, causing slow traffic. The M1 northbound has a lane closure between junctions 4 and 5 near Elstree with delays. The M23 northbound has a lane closure between junctions 9 and 8 near Reigate. The M2 eastbound between junctions 3 and 4 near Chatham is closed. The A5 is closed in both directions at Menai Bridge. Across Wales, the A5 at Menai Bridge is closed. And on the trains, cross-country services are reduced between Newport and Cardiff Central, with disruption between Oxford and Didcot Parkway and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com. "38 minutes past 2, and you're watching Good Afternoon Britain now.
15 days as the Prime Minister, and Andy Burnham is already taking a holiday. Reform's Lee Anderson has called him not a serious leader. Why didn't he just have this holiday beforehand? Many people will ask, I'm sure.
But the PM says he will remain in direct contact with officials and continue holding meetings during the overseas break.
Well, we can now speak with journalist and host of the Nowhere Office podcast, Stephen Stern, and political commentator Andy Preston.
It's a heated debate about whether the Prime Minister should be on holiday. Stephen, let's come to you first. I mean, 15 days in the job. Is the Prime Minister, his in-tray is huge. Should he be on holiday?
Well, he's worked all year to this point, of course, in another big job in Greater Manchester and fought a by-election, appointed a new cabinet. He's booked a family holiday, and I think he's entitled to it. I'm speaking to you from holiday in beautiful Northumberland.
But Stephen, you're not the Prime Minister.
Oh, you say the cruelest things. No, that's true, but the principle is actually the same. You can, as he's clearly going to be doing several hours of work a day, in touch with the office on security matters and other things, and should any crises come up, I think he's perfectly entitled to take a holiday as planned with his family. People seem to like Andy Burnham for being normal, and this is a normal thing to do for a family person to do, go on holiday.
Listen, Andy Preston, if nothing else, it's just the optics of this. Surely, as the new man in the job, a job you've coveted for decades, you're suddenly in office. It's about showing intent, isn't it? That you're determined to roll up your sleeves and get on with the job. The optics are absolutely awful here.
The optics, Mark, are terrible. As well as him being stupid and lazy for doing this, it's politically really naive. And I've just heard that he's worked all year. And he has, but he's worked all year mainly to unseat his boss, Keir Starmer, and to take his job and to bring down a government. He didn't take a break then. He wasn't taking a break when he wanted to be PM, and now he's got PM. He's going to, I'm going to swear, but I'll stop myself. He's going to, disappear off to Benidorm or wherever he's gone. This is preposterous. Now, of course, we all deserve a holiday. I set up a charity that actually bought caravans to try and give everyone a chance to get away and have a break. We all deserve that break, and it makes us stronger and calmer and better at our jobs. But, he's the PM. He's destabilised the government. He's wanted this job for 16 years. As soon as he gets it, he's disappearing off to Benidorm or wherever he's gone, and it tells us something really important.
Maybe he's off to one of your caravans.
It tells us that getting the job was more important than doing the job. He's not taking it seriously, and I think it's offensive.
Stephen, that is a fair point. I mean, he's worked very, very hard to get this job, to be fair. But it's just the wrong timing. 2 weeks in, we've got the migrant crisis, we've got all sorts of stuff going on that needs looking at. I mean, the family can go on holiday, but, I mean, why not stay and sort this out?
Well, the crises never stop, and that's why he'll be in touch with the office constantly. And I don't see why he can't continue to supervise and lead a government, even while he is also taking a break with his family. He's now living in two centres, of course, up north and down in London half the time. That's also disruptive. I think his wife is not going to live in London with him. So this is a rare chance for him to spend a bit of a break with them before he gets back into the full swing of the job, in 2 weeks' time. I think it's fairly normal behaviour. We want people to take decisions, as Andy said, based on rest and full energy and a calm head, not having worked non-stop all year, never taking any sort of break at all. I think it's probably quite good time management, apart from anything else.
Well, you put your finger on something there, Stephen, in terms of number 10 North. There's criticism for that as well, a suggestion that he's become already a part-time Prime Minister, that he just wants a 4-day week and then to spend the rest of the time with his family still up in Manchester.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. I think he's probably pretty busy on Fridays and Saturdays, wherever else he is up there too. He's trying to stay rooted to the community, of course, that he represents and that he comes from, as well as on the national stage from London. I think that's also quite a refreshing thing. And I tell you that from beautiful Northumberland, where I am on holiday. And it's very good to get out of London and see the rest of the country. And he's doing that on a regular basis. I think that's part of his commitment to the job, rather than shirking or avoiding it.
Stefan, to be fair, at least you are having a staycation. You're supporting British industry wherever you're staying. You're probably encouraging local hospitality, if you've got any sense. And Andy, we don't know where the Prime Minister is, but at the very least, he loves the North. He could have gone to, I don't know, Northumberland, somewhere lovely like that.
Andy?
Sorry,
Andy?
John, was that for me?
Yes, your name's Andy.
All right,
evidently.
yes, he could have done, and I'm sorry, I don't know where he's gone, but the whole thing is stupid. Do you know why this is really stupid? And he, by the way, he will come to regret this. He's going to become known as part-time Andy or Air Miles Andy or something like that. Parliament has a recess coming up from the middle of September to the middle of October for the conference season. They all do a runner. And he could have easily had a quick break then with his family. His family could have gone anyway. I didn't know that his wife wasn't moving to London. So this is doubly bad. No wonder he's opened number 10 North. It's so that he can work from home with her. And, you know, good luck to her. But listen, I'm his boss. You're his boss. We're all his boss. And this is not acceptable behaviour. Someone who wants to apply for the biggest job in the country and one of the biggest in the world. And then once they've got it, says, oh, by the way, I'm off in 2 weeks' time on a family holiday. It sends you the message that they don't take it that seriously.
Bunking off Burnham. That's these.
Love it. You did say bunking off there,
Bunk off
didn't you?
Burnham, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a Scottish accent. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. And Stefan, thank you so much for interrupting your holiday. That's Stefan Stern, host of the Nowhere Office podcast, and political commentator Andy Preston. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for that one.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yeah, we'll be live in the Isle of Wight, where business is booming. Plus, we have a breaking news story.
News of a shark sighting off the coast of Jersey,
which we might be diverting to the Isle of Wight to Isabel to report on that one. But if you are in search of some holiday sun and possibly some more sharks, it's up to you. Here's a forecast of some of those top European holiday destinations for you.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat is building and intensifying across central and eastern parts of Europe through the next few days. Fine for many parts of Europe, but the risk of thunderstorms for the Alps and a few scattered elsewhere in many parts. I think for the Canary Islands, mostly dry with sunny spells and feeling hot here. 1 or 2 showers and thunderstorms for northern and eastern parts of Spain, otherwise hot sunshine. But the temperatures across Italy into Croatia, more especially into Hungary and Bulgaria, really quite high for the time of year, up into the high 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
4 heat waves, weeks without meaningful rain. As the UK heads towards one of its hottest summers on record, the pressure is showing here in Sussex, in the fruit growing across these fields.
Well, the impact of the heat is already visible here. This local grower says that if these extreme temperatures continue, this year's harvest may well be smaller in size.
I don't think there's been another period like this in the history. 3 years ago, we had a tremendous heat wave in the middle of harvest. We were unable to get the fruit to cool down quickly enough. The following year we had a very, very light crop, and the same again this year.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's only all-female chess team, called She Plays to Win, has been promoted to the game's top division, only to be told they must recruit a male player to compete. Now, league rules require every First Division team to include at least 1 male and 1 female player, meaning that one of the team's female players could lose her place. I'm joined in the studio by the She Plays to Win chess players, Anusha and Alicia. Great to see you both this afternoon.
Thank you.
So sorry about what's going on. You've been promoted, but you might have to lose one of your teammates. What's going on here?
So essentially, we have fallen victim to this rule that She Plays to Win, our team, has been promoted to the First Division in our league, but now must have a male player as part of the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, that drought is due to long periods, record periods actually, with no rainfall and high temperatures. The areas that are affected, as you say, over half of England, half of the UK affected by that. The areas being East Anglia, Hertfordshire, the whole of London, Thames Valley, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, Devon and Cornwall, the West Midlands and Wessex, covering Dorset, Somerset, Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. So a huge area impacted by that drought. There is also that amber heat health alert still in place here. That's in place until tomorrow. And temperatures today in the south could reach up to 35 degrees. So people here in Bognor Regis coming to the coast to cool down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 10 to 3 already. Golly gosh, time is flying.
Yeah, and we can tell you about a Jersey shark sighting in recent days.
Yeah.
A shark spotted off Jersey. We don't know the type of shark.
It was
probably a basking shark, but you never know.
You never know. I mean, come on, it's the
Could be a
silly
great
season. I'm a tabloid journalist. This used to be a staple of every tabloid every summer since the dawn of time, since Jaws, basically, that there was a shark spotted normally off the coast of Cornwall. And we would all speculate that it might be a great white, but it never was. But, I mean, that's not the point.
And I can guarantee that our Yearsay audience are going to be saying, can we divert that shark further up into the English Channel?
Oh, gosh. Perish the thought. No, that's just wrong. We couldn't do that. We can't even divert it to the Isle of Wight, because that's where we're off to next, isn't it?
Isabel Fekulak is there. She's been taking part in Cows Week all week. Isabel, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you both. Yes, I'm here on the Isle of Wight for Cows Week, the oldest and largest sailing regatta of its kind in the world, and it brings around 100,000 visitors to the island every year. Today, currently the sailors are coming in from their day out of sailing. They'll be getting back onto the island very shortly, and they'll begin what they call après sail. So the pubs around this area and all across the island where people will be staying will be buzzing very shortly, just like this promenade is currently. You've got lots of small businesses stationed along here, and lots of visitors coming, spending their money. It's a great thing for the local economy here. They rely very heavily on tourism on the summer here on the Isle of Wight. It's quite a deprived area at times. 3 neighbourhoods in the Isle of Wight are among the top 10% of deprived areas in the UK. So when the atmosphere is like this, when it's buzzing with people and tourism and life, it's such a special thing for the island, and it's great to see so many local businesses here on the promenade for Cows Week. One of those local businesses I'm at now, it's the Isle of Wight Ice Cream Co, and I'm joined by co-owners. Louise, tell me, how has this week been at Cows? Is business booming?
Yeah, it's been really good. We've been really pleased to be invited out to represent local businesses. We make Isle of Wight ice cream, supporting local dairy farmers, and yeah, there's a real buzz here this week, and we love being here.
And it's so special to source everything locally on the island, isn't it? And do you get a lot of people who choose to go for this business because it's locally sourced?
Yeah, no, definitely more and more, especially seemingly in the last couple of years, we've found our products really gain momentum, and people want an Isle of Wight ice cream while they're on the Isle of Wight. And we have some great events now here on the island with the Isle of Wight Festival, with lots of other things going on all year round. And we do find that people are very loyal to the provenance of their food, and we're really pleased to see our business grow year on year.
And you said that you do make the ice cream all year round, so you are busy. But in the summer, I suppose you get most of your business. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the important case, really. We're a very small business, so we have to make ice cream 12 months of the year in order to fulfil the demand that the Isle of Wight represents in the summer. So in order to make enough ice cream, we are literally making it every single week, and then we have enough to cover us for the winter. So yeah, no, we're really, really busy, but yeah, it's a slightly different way in July and August, but really busy all year round.
Brilliant, and I'm sure you're soaking up the atmosphere here in Cowes. I'm going to try a little bit of this local ice cream myself. I've got a mint choc chip cone coming. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us on GB News. The sun has gone away, but the rain has stopped here. It's still very hot, so I'm going to enjoy my ice cream, and we're going to be chatting to more businesses here and to all kind of destinations throughout the week who will be benefiting from the 100,000 tourists and visitors arriving for Cowes Week this year.
Isabel, thank you so much. That's Isabel Fector. Like in the Isle of Wight, enjoy that one. What's your favourite ice cream?
Rum and raisin.
Rum and
that's
raisin.
my favourite.
Why did I know you'd say that? Is that because it's got rum in it?
Yeah, that's a little part of it, but you know, it's got a nice tang. Like that.
It's great promoting business in the Isle of Wight. And Lynn has said, Mark, I love you. Is that your auntie, Lynn?
Well, she is now. Thank you, Auntie Lynn.
Meanwhile, Humpty has said Cornwall has loads of sharks, basking sharks, and they're massive but harmless. Oh, it's still a good story though, isn't it? In any case, thank you so much. The young folk might be back tomorrow, but don't go too far because Martin's up next with an amazing show.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. This is your GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Now, there has been some thundery rain across northern parts today, and there's a bit more of that to come into tomorrow. But a big talking point, a big change that we're going to see is the hot, humid air we've had in the southeast. That is clearing away. There's a frontal system bringing something a little bit fresher, so temperatures dropping here. Overnight, we will see more showery rain affecting parts of Scotland in particular, but the more persistent rain does clear away towards the far north. Elsewhere, a few bursts of rain across western parts in particular. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry with some clear skies. Even though we do have that fresher air coming in, it is still going to be a warm night to come. Temperatures widely holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius across